Weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. ScotRail train services aren't running between Edinburgh, Waverley and Bathgate because of a gas leak near the railway. In Staffordshire, the A50 is partly blocked westbound by an accident between Heron Cross and the Seaway roundabout at Stoke-on-Trent, causing queues. In Northamptonshire, Sheep Street in Wellingborough is closed for an investigation. In London on the North Circular, it's down to a single lane westbound for repairs at the Brent Cross flyover, with queues from the East End Road tunnel at Finchley. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, which delays too on the clockwise M25 towards there from Junction 4 at Orpington. It's a wait of up to an hour at border control at the port of Dover. Disruption to First Bus Southwest bus routes in Cornwall and Somerset because of industrial action. And Skybus and Penzance helicopter flights to and from the Isles of Scilly are on hold because of poor visibility. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a very difficult issue, this, right? As far as we know, the boxer with male chromosomes was born with female genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite simple. Sex in humans is binary and immutable because we are mammals. And there is a minority of people who have disorders of sexual development, and that can affect a person's reproductive organs. But these people are male or female. And yesterday, what we witnessed was basically just glorified male violence against women and girls. The difference is, I mean, that happens every day all over the world. And the difference is that in every other circumstance, we consider beating up women to be wrong, but it was deemed acceptable by those at the IOC because they're claiming that it's sport, but it's not. It's violence and it's wrong.
Peter, Lottie's right, isn't she, that we've been talking a lot recently about violence against women and girls, and regardless of whether this person is intersex or transgender, they have male chromosomes. That means they have a very, very distinct biological advantage that could actually be fatal to a female athlete competing against them.
Well, of course, sport does need to be fair, and we do need to examine this case very thoroughly. There are reports that the boxer, Iman Khalif, was born a biological woman. She is not transgender. She is not non-binary. She is not intersex. She may have elevated levels of testosterone, but that's entirely natural. It's beyond her control. It's the way she was born. And that is why the International Olympic Committee has said that she falls within the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning, 9:30 on Monday, the 12th of August, live across the United Kingdom. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Good morning, thank you for joining us. So, do we have any respect left for the police? The Home Secretary has condemned the brazen abuse of officers during the riots, and she's pledged to restore law and order.
Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, says a soft approach to policing under the Tories helped to lead to the trouble on the streets in the past 10 days. Is she right?
And the funeral of 9-year-old Alice da Silva Aguirre, who was stabbed at the Taylor Swift themed dance, took place in Southport. Her parents said they wonder if she called for us in her final moments.
And the Olympic closing ceremony. Did you watch it? Tom Cruise brought the house down. He brought the games to a close in Paris, and William and Kate congratulated Team GB on their performance.
Are you a fan of Prince William's bold new beard? Absolutely not.
And get your shorts on. Britain is braced for the hottest day of the year, with parts of the UK set to hit a 34-degree heat wave. Anna Riley has more.
I mentioned the cricketer.
Yes, we're here in Scarborough, where lots of holidaymakers and visitors will be coming to enjoy the sunshine. But there also might be a bit of rain, as thunderstorms are forecast for the north of England.
And also, we're talking about this very powerful, moving article in the Times today. Amanda Thorpe, whose husband Graeme Thorpe was that famous England cricketer, she's admitted that his battle with mental illness was such that he felt that his wife and daughters would be better off without him, and he took his own life. How sad is that?
Very sad. GBNews.com/your say this morning. With all of your contributions, we'd love to hear from you. First, the very latest news with Cameron Walker.
Thanks, Bev. It's 9:32. I'm Cameron Walker here in the GB Newsroom. The UK could see its hottest day of the year today, with temperatures reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius. Cooler weather is expected to arrive later in the week, bringing temperatures back to more comfortable levels. Further north today, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for thunderstorms. In Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, there could be flash flooding and travel disruptions. And we've had some breaking news in the last few minutes. A boy has died after being pulled from a canal in Wolverhampton. West Midlands Ambulance Service was called to a canal off Hendon Avenue in Ettingshall just after 6 p.m. last night. Police officers pulled the boy from the canal before paramedics and a trauma doctor arrived, but despite their best efforts, he could not be saved and was confirmed dead at the scene. The Home Secretary has said respect for the police must be restored after they faced brazen abuse and contempt during rioting. Yvette Cooper says it's crucial to maintain a strong police response on the ground and keep up the pace of arrests and prosecutions. Police remained on high alert over the weekend, but there was no widespread unrest. Stand Up to Racism rallies gathered in London, Belfast and Edinburgh, with thousands demonstrating outside the Reform UK headquarters. Train delays caused by signal failures have cost passengers almost 1 million minutes since the 2018-19 financial year. That's according to Network Rail figures provided to the Liberal Democrats after a Freedom of Information request. The party is calling for a freeze on rail fares in response to poor services. Labour has promised to bring all passenger railway services back into public ownership. Customers receiving poor services from water companies could get more than double the usual compensation under new government proposals. The list of circumstances that could trigger compensation could also be expanded under the plans, including automatic payments for those issued boil notices or when water companies fail to conduct meter readings or installations as promised. Environment Secretary Steve Reed said the government hopes to turn the tide on the destruction of our waterways. England cricketer Graeme Thorpe took his own life after battling years of anxiety and depression, according to his family. In a statement, his wife Amanda says she and Graeme's 2 daughters are devastated. He took his life earlier this month following an earlier suicide attempt in 2022. Thorpe, who died aged 55, has been hailed as one of England's best cricket players with a distinguished international career, hitting 16 Test hundreds for England. And Team GB athletes are set to return home after a successful Paris Olympics. Great Britain ended the Games with 65 medals, the same number won at London 2012, and second best ever tally on foreign soil. But Team GB won 8 fewer gold medals than in Tokyo 3 years ago and Rio in 2016. Last night, the King and Queen sent their warmest congratulations, and His Majesty hailed Team GB athletes as an inspiration. The Prince and Princess of Wales also congratulated Team GB in a special video featuring Snoop Dogg and David Beckham. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker, back in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning, it's 9:36. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News, with me, Bev Turner, and Andrew Pearce.
Well, awfully sad news this morning. The family of Graeme Thorpe has revealed that the cricket star took his own life after several years battling anxiety and depression. It was his second. He tried unsuccessfully to take his life before. He actually thought his wife and 2 daughters would be better off without him.
That's right. So his wife, Amanda, and their 2 daughters, Kitty and Emma, have spoken of his battle with mental health and their hope that his battles on and off the pitch will continue to inspire. She's They appear to have given an interview to Mike Atherton, of course, also former cricketer, to the Times newspaper this morning.
Yeah, and the quote I picked out was, Amanda, his wife, said, despite having a wife and 2 daughters he loved and who loved him, he did not get any better. She's talking about his mental illness. He was so unwell in recent times. He believed we would be better off without him. We are devastated he acted on that and took his own life. Isn't that harrowing? And I wonder if a part of it, Bev, is you're almost a god when you're on the cricket pitch. Yeah. England captain, England coach, you're in the public eye, you have a life, you know what you're doing every morning you get out of bed. And then when that comes to an end, is it difficult to come to terms with it? We know he battled with drink and drugs. But, I mean, 55.
55, because
no
we know
age.
That, you know, suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, I think, isn't it? A shocking fact. But to be 55 it's almost quite unusual, actually, I think, for men to take their own lives at that age. And sports people like that, they are so driven that it can be a blessing and a curse. You know, his wife is quoted in the paper as saying he hardly ever talked about his success or his playing days. If someone asked him what he did, he said he knocked a ball about a bit. It's almost like nothing was good enough, was it, sometimes? But, yeah, very sad. But good of them to talk about it. And she said, the mother said, we are not ashamed to talk about it with remarkable composure and bravery. There's nothing to hide. It is not a stigma.
And we're going to be talking to somebody a little later in the programme about that, sort of the signs and things that perhaps look out for. Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, she's written in the Daily Telegraph, my, how the world is changing. The Labour Home Secretary writing in the Tory Graph how she's going to restore the public's faith in law and order after 2 weeks of civil unrest.
So, Yvette Cooper said that the riots show the UK has lost respect for the police and that the recent disorder shows people believe that crime has no consequences.
Let's talk to our political editor, Chris Hope, who's in Westminster for us. Chris, this once upon a time was traditional Tory territory, law and order. Did they vacate that space in the last few years, and can Labour fill it?
Well, it seems that way. And morning, Andrew. Morning, Bev. Yes, it seems that way, according to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary. She's written in, say, Telegraph, she's blaming that the soft approach to crime under the last government led many people to feel as though crime has no consequences. As well as punishing rioters, she said, we must take action to restore respect for the police and respect for the law. Charge rates have fallen, she says, and court delays have grown. And we need to rebuild our communities and respect for the law. But respect for the law is first. Now, she says in her article there, short article on the Telegraph website, that she recognises that people have strong views on law and order, immigration and the NHS, but they don't justify picking up bricks and throwing them at police, looting shops, or wrecking cars. So, yeah, she's saying that, you know, it's not acceptable. You may have concerns about immigration, but you shouldn't be rioting, and I guess everyone can agree with that. What the government is not doing yet is going towards, why are all these white boys in trouble? What is the government doing to deal with that? These boys in poorer neighbourhoods, of course, it's boys from all different backgrounds, but there is concern about the fact you have these people being jailed. Why are they rioting? Why are they so angry? And getting towards that might be helpful. I should say, though, that Andrew and Bev, this government is going to start to release 5,000 prisoners early from prison next month. That's after serving 40%, not half of their jail term. So while she talks about soft justice and that damaging faith in the police, this same government will start releasing prisoners early to ease jail overcrowding.
She's got a point, though, about being soft, because, look, Chris, the Tories under Theresa May as Home Secretary got rid of 20,000 police officers. Absolute madness. And I pointed out in the Mail today that they can whinge on about prisoners being released early, but the Tory government closed 7 prisons in 14 years. What were they thinking of? 4 of them are now tourist attractions.
I think one in Shrewsbury possibly you're thinking about there, Andrew. Yeah, that's right. They did close a lot of these prisons, and now it's come back to bite them. Yeah. An idea under the last Labour government in the 2000s was super prisons, super jails. They may come about. There's this new planning reforms going through, being consulted on, that will allow them to build these new prisons and almost overrule a lot of local concern about them. If people don't want prisoners down the road being housed in jail. So yeah. Yeah, I think again, Labour has got space for this. They can blame the last government, the last 14 years of Tory rule for the problems faced now. But how they deal with the fallout from the riots, we are yet to see from this government.
OK, thank you, Chris. We're joined now by former Detective Superintendent Shabnam Chowdhury. Morning, Shabnam.
Morning, Bev. Morning, Andrew.
Morning. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at the piece that the Home Secretary has written in the newspaper today, but the headline is, "We need to restore respect for our police." Do you think events of the last week have restored respect for the police, or quite the opposite?
Look, I really like Yvette Cooper, and I think she's doing a great job in such an early stage. She's doing a lot of work around the violence against women and girls. I am surprised at the statement that she's made this early, when we're talking literally just a week after what's been happening, and there's nothing to suggest that this is going to completely die down. Let's hope that they have stopped these riots. But of course, respect needs to be restored within policing. But the reality of it is that trust and confidence in policing is already at an all-time low. We know that the Metropolitan Police, for example, has been labelled institutionally racist. We cannot get away from that, misogynistic as well as homophobic. And we've got Greater Manchester Police, who was shown also still remains institutionally racist in November of last year. So there's a lot of work for policing to do. But what I would say is, in this last week, whilst there's been a lot of criticism of policing, I think mostly the public are behind the police. They're doing an absolutely phenomenal job in incredibly difficult circumstances. Significant number of police officers have been injured and sustained injuries, some very serious ones. So I think to say that there's trust as low at the moment is probably not right now the time to do that. I think give it some time and reflect on what public think about it, because I think in the main, the vast majority of the public are behind the police in terms of the challenges that they are facing at this really difficult, heightened, intensive times.
And of course, Shabnam, I rather agree with you. And what my worry is that when now order is restored, that the police will melt away, and because of operational decisions taken by chief constables in different parts of the country, we don't see them anymore. We don't see them on the streets. There is no visibility, and I suspect it's often because they're being put to work, perhaps doing stuff that other people think is more important, like looking for online hate crimes, which is why you don't see many bobbies on the beat, many police cars driving around communities.
Well, let me clarify. Those police officers that you're talking about aren't the ones who drive around as bobbies on the beat, as the neighbourhood police officers aren't the ones that will be looking at the online hate that you're seeing at the moment. And this isn't about people not having the freedom to speak. This is about people who are inciting hatred and violence. So they need to be looked at. And you'll have specially trained officers that will be looking at that kind of stuff. But what I would say is, in amongst all these riots that you're seeing and the thousands of police officers that have been deployed to work on these riots, these are your ordinary, everyday police officers who work on the front line, who are neighbourhood officers, who are being redeployed to these riots. And that is where the issue is, because it's depleting the resources on the front line. Some of those police forces are already in special measures. The Met is in special measures. You've got Nottinghamshire in special measures. You've got Devon and Cornwall. These are forces that remain in special measures because they're not delivering the service to the public. Their investigative capability is poor. So when you see what's going on in the last week or so, this is just going to add to those difficulties for policing, taking them a lot longer to come out of special measures and to rebuild that trust and confidence. We're going around in circles here at the moment.
OK, thank you. Former Detective Superintendent Shabnam Chowdhury there. Let us know your thoughts this morning, gbnews.com/your say. Lots of comments coming in already. It's going to be a very hot day today.
And of course we'll be bombarded with warnings about how to conduct ourselves, just in case you didn't realise it gets hot, that you perhaps should wear a hat or perhaps put some sunblock on, drink some water.
We won't give you any of those warnings.
No.
We'll just help you to look forward to it. So don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Royal biographer, very good friend of mine, Angela Levin. Angela, good to see you again. This is, you have to say, quite typical of the couple. They say one thing and do another. Britain's too dangerous, but Colombia isn't.
Well, yes. I mean, it's just fascinating that the UK Foreign Office has said to people that they mustn't go unless it's absolutely essential, because it is dangerous at the moment, especially in a place called Calais, where they have a list of, that's where one of the things that they're going to go. And the KGB in Calais has got 80% of global cocaine. So, and also they're doing a lot of taking people away and asking for money to give them back. So it is really ridiculous. And it actually conforms with my long-term suggestion that they try to manipulate the king and bring him to, stressfully to help him. And of course, it won't happen, but that's what Harry's trying. I mean, to have 3 court cases on the Home Office when they keep saying the same thing, and he's trying and trying and trying, because that's why he won't bring his wife, that's why he won't bring his children. But really, it's a nonsense, because he would be very looked after with good protection people, but not the very, very top of the tree, which is really just for Camilla, Charles and William and Catherine. There's a distance in the level, and it's not taking our money, our tax money, to pay for it. It comes out of another pocket.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes,
she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 9:49. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Temperatures are soaring today. Multiple parts of England are going to go above 30 degrees in what could be the hottest day of the year so far.
But if you're in Scotland or the north of England, the Met Office have also issued yellow weather warnings for thunderstorms. Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Anna Riley. Good morning, Anna. It's looking rather lovely, a little breezy where you are. Are you in Scarborough?
In Scarborough, yes, Bev, and we've come just here to show you the Yorkshire tea. So if you want to come along to the tea kiosk, they've got Yorkshire tea, which I know is your favourite. But yes, there is thunderstorm warnings that are in place. We've got a little bit of fine rain coming on at the moment, but it is due to clear later on. It's starting to get a little bit busy. We can see a couple of people turning up now. Scarborough is a beautiful resort. It's actually Britain's oldest seaside resort, and it was in the 1660s, where we can just see over there, that's the Scarborough Spa. People started coming because of the spa's healing waters, and then from 1845, when the railway system was built, even more holiday makers came, and they continue to come. Millions of people each year visiting this lovely resort, which still has that Victorian feel to it. It's certainly a popular destination and a brilliant boost as well for businesses when we've got warm days. It's the summer holidays, when you've got families flocking here to spend their money. It's certainly a boost for the local trade in the area. And of course, with the warm weather comes those warnings, don't they, Andrew? So just make sure that you're drinking plenty of water when it's getting hotter throughout today.
I hope you've got your sunblock on, Anna. Back to 50, please.
That's it, definitely. And your sunglasses as well.
Very good. Anna Riley, lovely to talk to you. But let's talk now to meteorologist John Ketley, who needs no introduction to people watching and listening to GB News. John, finally, is it a proper heatwave?
Just for a couple of days, actually, Andrew. Yes, and Bev. Didn't look that hot at Scarborough, did it? I've got to say, at the moment, it's still a little bit temperate, I think. But yeah, the hotter weather is on the way today. It's going to be affecting much of southern, central, eastern England, really, as far as East Yorkshire. We will see temperatures up around 34, 35 degrees. You know, this is historically called Glorious 12th, isn't it? The 12th of August. They always used to call it in country terms the Glorious 12th. It's interesting that in 2020 and 2022, and again today, we're going to see temperatures up around 34 or 35 degrees around the home counties, which is far too hot for many, I think, Andrew.
John, what do you do on a hot day as an experienced weatherman?
Well, I do hunker down a little bit, actually. I mean, I do like the sunshine. I'm not going to tell people what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. I think if you've got health issues, obviously, if you're asthmatic or something, you've got to be a bit more careful. But I don't have those issues myself, so I do enjoy a bit of time in the garden. But, you know, when it gets to the middle of the day, they always say between 11 and 3 you should hunker down to some degree. And I'd probably go under a palm tree or something like that and just keep out of the blazing hot sun.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because actually one of the best places you can go on a really hot day, if you don't like the hot weather, is a little walk in a woodland.
Sure, that's right.
Is to find a little bit of English countryside and go under the trees where it can be just glorious and quite cool. It's lovely. I'm heading off to a water park this afternoon. Andrew, you're very welcome to join me.
Very nice offer, but I've got things to do. But where's the water park?
In Oxfordshire, one of those big lakes. Because we're seeing more of that, John, now, aren't we? As the climate, I suppose, is warming up in this country, more water parks or places like lakes that used to be reservoirs, which are being converted into leisure areas, which is wonderful.
Yes, they are. They are very good and very useful. But of course, some people do take extreme measures and they jump into these old quarries which have been flooded out, and it is very cold water actually, unless it's monitored. So that can be extremely dangerous for some people. It's not the sort of thing I would recommend at all. I prefer to go to the beach or something like that if you want to just cool off, splash out for 20 minutes and then come out and get back into the sunshine. But yeah, I mean, I'm not part of the nanny state. I don't care what people do on hot days. We don't get enough of them, quite frankly. And you know, if we do get 34 degrees in the southeast today, well, all well and good. 28 tomorrow. And there is more rain on the way, and as you've mentioned already, it's a double-edged sword today, really, because we've had thunderstorms already in Northern Ireland and Scotland.
Thank you, John. I mean, there's a bit of irony. I've got to cut you off, because here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, this week starts off on a hot and humid note, and that humidity is also giving way to some thunderstorms. The thunderstorms already going across parts of northern England and Scotland. Warnings are in force here throughout the morning and early afternoon. After a fairly lively night across parts of Northern Ireland, it is cheering up here, some sunshine developing, but really the main bulk of the sunshine will be further south across England and Wales. The heat here could just trigger the odd thunderstorm, but most will be dry. But it's going to be an uncomfortable feeling day. Some places in the east potentially reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, it's going to remain fine and dry across many parts of England and Wales. Could again just see the odd thunderstorm breaking out, but most will miss them, and temperatures only slowly falling away. Could still see temperatures in their 30s as we head into the evening. Northern Ireland, Northern England and most of Scotland seeing a drier end to the day. Winds also easing here too, but could just hang on to the rain across Shetland as we end Monday evening. So for most, it will be a fairly dry night, but a fairly warm and humid one, especially across the south. Temperatures potentially holding up above 20 degrees in a few spots. But out towards the west, we will see this next band of rain and cloud move in, and that will herald something a little bit fresher, but it is going to be a bit of a slow process as we go through Tuesday. So a dry, sunny start for most of us on Tuesday, but the rain in the west will slowly spread its way eastward, so turning increasingly cloudy and damp for many western and eventually into some central areas too. But further east, you are hanging on to the sunshine and also the heat. It won't be as hot across the east compared to today, but still highs reaching around 28 or possibly 29 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. ScotRail train services aren't running between Edinburgh, Waverley and Bathgate because of a gas leak. In West Yorkshire, the A629 is blocked southbound along Bareham Top at Halifax, causing queues. In Derbyshire, the A515 is blocked northbound along Buxton Road in Ashbourne, causing delays. In Northamptonshire, Sheep Street in Wellingborough is closed for an investigation. In London, on the North Circular, it's down to a single lane westbound for repairs at the Brent Cross flyover, with queues from the East End Road tunnel at Finchley. The M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, with delays on the clockwise M25 towards there too. At the Port of Dover, there's a wait of up to an hour at border control. On the M3 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed on the southbound exit at junction 14 for the A14, where a lorry has a puncture causing delays. And Penzance helicopter flights to and from the Isles of Scilly are on hold because of poor visibility. Skybus flights have resumed, but with delays of up to 3/4 of an hour.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You really could become the next giveaway winner with your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Listen to what some of our previous winners have to say about winning big with us.
Hi, my name's Victoria. I won the Spring Great British giveaway. So the day we got the money in our bank account, everything just felt just a lot nicer. We went out for dinner, just enter. And you never expect to win, but I did.
Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
It's 10 a.m. on Monday the 12th of August, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
So, respect for the police, is there any? The Home Secretary condemns what she says is the brazen abuse officers have faced during the riots. She's pledging to restore law and order.
The funeral of 9-year-old Alice Da Silva Aguirre, who was stabbed at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class, took place in Southport yesterday. Her parents said they wonder if she called for us in her final moments.
So sad. And another sad story. It's been revealed this morning that the England cricket legend and father of four, Graeme Thorpe, took his own life.
And a water company crackdown. People in England and Wales are going to see the amount of compensation they receive for poor customer service double under new rules. But is it enough?
And did you watch it? I'm afraid I didn't. The Olympic closing ceremony. Tom Cruise brought the games to a close in Paris. William and Kate congratulated Team GB on their performance.
From all of us watching at home, congratulations to Team GB.
Well done on all you've achieved. You've been an inspiration to us all.
And on that video message to Team GB, are you a fan of Prince William's new beard? It's caused a lot of controversy.
It's awful.
I like his beard. I don't normally like a beard, but I think it really suits him.
I just think it made him look scruffy.
Oh, is that what it is?
Scruffy.
Well,
And I know he's on holiday, but this is an official engagement, sort of. He could have shaved just for that. But
Oh,
you know,
it's the
it's
summer,
Yeah,
he's on
all
his
right.
holidays.
I just don't like beards, full stop, really.
I don't normally, but I have to say, I do think he looks quite nice
You
with
notice there is not a single bearded member of the cabinet. Never
I
is.
hadn't noticed that, but you know what? The most recent controversial beard is Vance, President Trump.
Yeah, the deputy, the
Vice
president.
President.
Yeah.
That's a controversial beard because apparently they're not terribly popular in American politics as well.
No, I saw Darren Jones, who's now the Chief Secretary of the Treasury. It was day 2 of the government, and as he was walking past, we were on College Green at Westminster, I said, Minister, that'll have to go. He said, what? I said, the beard, it won't last. It's gone.
Well,
Power of GB News,
more
you see.
cutting-edge debate
Power of
about
GB News.
facial hair. Don't go anywhere. We're here until midday at gbnews.com/your say. Do you like a beard or not? First with the news, here's Cameron.
Good morning, it's 2 minutes past 10. I'm Cameron Walker here in the GB Newsroom. And we've got some breaking news to bring you. More than 700 migrants arrived in the UK after crossing the Channel yesterday, according to Home Office figures. That's the highest number on a single day since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, and the third highest daily number so far this year. It comes after 2 migrants died yesterday, attempting to cross the Channel and reach the UK in small boats. The UK could see its hottest day of the year today, with temperatures reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius. Central England is expected to feel the most intense conditions. Further north, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for thunderstorms. In Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, there could be flash flooding and travel disruptions. Meteorologist Jim Dale says the high temperatures are consistent with the summer season.
We've seen 30 degrees now about 6 or 7 times somewhere in the UK on separate days. So it's not like we haven't had a summer. We certainly have. And if we're talking about 33, 34 here, well, in places like Paris, Madrid and Rome, we're talking about 37, 38, a lot hotter there. And that's going to test some people.
A boy has died after being pulled from a canal in Wolverhampton. West Midlands Ambulance Service was called to a canal off Hendon Avenue in Ettingshall just after 6 p.m. last night. Police officers pulled the boy from the canal before paramedics and a trauma doctor arrived, but despite their best efforts, he could not be saved and was confirmed dead at the scene. The Home Secretary has said respect for the police must be restored after they faced brazen abuse and contempt during rioting. Yvette Cooper says it's crucial to maintain a strong police response on the ground and keep up the pace of arrests and prosecutions. Police remained on high alert over the weekend, but there was no widespread unrest. Stand Up to Racism rallies gathered in London, Belfast and Edinburgh, with thousands demonstrating outside the Reform UK headquarters. Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Canterbury labels the far right as unchristian and condemns the use of Christian imagery in the riots as an offence to our faith. Train delays caused by signal failures have cost passengers almost 1 million minutes since the 2018-2019 financial year. That's according to the Network Rail figures provided to the Liberal Democrats after a Freedom of Information request. The party is calling for a freeze on rail fares in response to poor services. Labour has promised to bring all passenger railway services back into public ownership. And customers receiving poor services from water companies could get more than double the usual compensation under new government's proposals. The list of circumstances that can trigger compensation could also be expanded under the plans, including automatic payments for those issued boil notices or when water companies fail to conduct meter readings or installations as promised. Environment Secretary Steve Reed said the government hopes to turn the tide on the destruction of our waterways. The Prime Minister has joined French and German leaders in a call for de-escalation and regional stability in the Middle East. In a joint statement with France's Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Olaf Scholz, Sir Keir Starmer has urged Iran and its allies not to jeopardise the opportunity to agree a ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. The PM spoke with leaders in the Middle East last week during a call with the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and in Downing Street with Sultan Haytham bin Tariq Al Said of Oman. England cricketer Graeme Thorpe took his own life after battling years of anxiety and depression, according to his family. In a statement, his wife Amanda says she and Graeme's 2 daughters are devastated he took his own life earlier this month, following an earlier suicide attempt in 2022. Thorpe, who died aged 55, has been hailed as one of England's best cricket players with a distinguished international career, hitting 16 Test hundreds for England. And Team GB athletes are set to return home after a successful Paris Olympics. Great Britain ended the Games with 65 medals, the same number won at London 2012 and second best ever tally on foreign soil. But Team GB won 8 fewer gold medals than in Tokyo 3 years ago. Last night, the King and Queen sent their warmest congratulations, and His Majesty hailed Team GB athletes as an inspiration. The Prince and Princess of Wales also congratulated Team GB in a special video featuring Snoop Dogg and David Beckham.
Greetings, loved ones.
From all of us watching at home, congratulations to Team GB.
Well done on all you've achieved. You've been an inspiration to us all.
And Prince William sporting a new beard there as well. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
At home, talking about the weather. Susan has said, I live in Plymouth on the Devon and Cornwall border. There's no heat wave here, grey skies and quite cool.
And John says it's hot. If it's hot, we have to wear a hat, keep out of the hot sun. If it's winter, wrap up warm, or it's going to be slippery underfoot, kindergarten stuff. Do you notice that if you get on the London Underground stations now, the babble is it just never stops. Hot weather, trying to get a seat. Well, good luck getting a seat on a packed underground train. Drink water. If you don't feel very well, ask someone else. It's just juvenilia.
It's infantilising.
I mean, they're infantilising all of us, aren't they? It is so irritating.
It's awful. On this issue of the police, Paula said the Home Secretary's comments vis-à-vis respect for the police are proof that politicians live in their own bubble. Sylvia says during the 2011 riots in Tottenham, did David Lammy go on TV to give a reason as to why they were rioting? Did he get called far left for passing comments? Did the courts deal with the rioters immediately? And were the jail terms just as tough?
The riots were different, of course, then. It was the death of Mark Duggan triggered the riots. He was involved with the police, and the sentences were swift because remember we had night courts. And they sat at weekends too.
This is what I find astonishing, is that Keir Starmer has suddenly been able to turn the power on underneath our judicial system, which had been labouring along and just doing nothing, really, since the pandemic with a massive backlog. And suddenly he's managing to get everybody through.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, of course it is, as long as you're banging up the right people.
Oh, I'm also uncomfortable too when politicians seem to be saying what the sentences should be. Isn't that down to the judges?
Yes.
Really? We don't want them meddling and interfering in that, thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. We've got the revival of the counter-disinformation unit, which is going to work at the moment. It's going to town on people, but anyway, it's a picture's emerging, isn't it? Now, it was a Hollywood ending to the Paris Olympics as they passed the baton to sunny Los Angeles.
Passed me by, I'm afraid. The Hollywood superstar Tom Cruise, he stole the show with his descent from the roof of the stadium before taking to his motorbike around Paris. Look, I'm sorry, this was just a rip-off of the Queen and Daniel Craig in 2012, and that was far more dramatic. The Queen apparently parachuting into the London 2012
yeah, Tom,
stadium.
what can you do? This is what the Queen did in 2012.
I mean, it was quite a good attempt, but I mean, I didn't watch it, to be honest. I've only read about it, but it was based on that, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course it was. I mean, I don't even think it was a nod to that. They just thought, oh, Tom Cruise, what can we have him do? Because it's always that, it is the handing over the baton
because
to Los
going
Angeles.
to LA now.
You get the mayor of Paris will then hand it over to the mayor of Los Angeles, so that's going to be in 4 years' time. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as when Lionel Richie sang All Night Long in front of the stadium there in '84.
Was that a reference to the closing ceremony or the opening ceremony? Because all of them go on too long.
It was pretty long last night. I think because they had 9,000 athletes they have to get in.
Do they all stay for it, Paul, or do a lot of them go back?
Well, this is interesting because I thought you would want to stay. If you were at the Olympics, I thought you'd probably... It's like Keely Hodgkinson. I mean, I'm certainly never going to knock Keely Hodgkinson for not staying, but I would have thought you would want to stay.
Because she's on holiday with her family, because I saw the pictures in the papers at the weekend.
But it slightly depends, because what also happens... Remember, I used to be married to an Olympian, and he had 2 gold medals. What also happens at the end of the Olympics is that commercial opportunities present themselves, media opportunities present themselves back in the country.
Back where you're from.
So suddenly there's a take your marks, go, and there's another competition as to who can get back and capitalise on your success.
Right.
So if you're one of the first ones back, you're going to be the first one on GB News, you're going to be the first one on whatever, pick another inferior show. And so they often will have agents going, we need you back here because we've got Adidas on, we want a meeting, we want Nike, we've got Reebok, so come back and have some meetings.
If you're in Paris, surely you can come back and just go, you know what, I'm just going to go back for the closing ceremony.
You'd want to stay, yeah, but it's desperate because there's only so many deals available, and the more Olympic gold medalists we have,
so it's
the
literally
fewer there
like an
are
auction.
to go around. Yeah,
But also, do you really want to spend 3 hours waiting to walk around the stadium? I mean, come on.
This is the reason you never made it as an Olympic athlete.
No, or a sports report. Can I tell you, I was a sports reporter on the Gloucestershire Echo. I did a bit of sports reporting for about 3 months. The end of my sports career as sports
3 months
was
surprises me it
covering
went that long.
Cheltenham Rugby seconds on a Tuesday night, pouring with rain. There were 11 people at the match.
Right.
There were more people on the pitch. That's when I knew I was done with sport.
Listen, Sharon Davis is going to talk to us in a minute, but I do want to hear...
Yes.
So I don't want to cut time with Sharon, Paul, but how did we do overall?
Well, we did better than maybe you might imagine, because as far as the medal table, the Americans did this thing where... And I spoke about this with you about a week ago. The Americans decided that they would do it on the amount of medals, not the amount of golds, although now they've changed their mind because they've won the most amount and the most amount of golds, but we would be 7th on the official medal table, below the Netherlands, below France, below Australia. But when it comes to medals won, which is 65, we're 3rd.
Which is extraordinary for a country of this size.
I think so,
And the only countries above us being China and the United States,
not bad
who
going,
have
is it?
pretty large... And I heard somebody carping on the radio the other day, we didn't have enough golds. You try and get a gold medal, or even a bronze medal or a silver. I think they did brilliantly. I didn't watch it, but I think they did great.
What you said there, and you say you didn't see the closing ceremony.
No.
Andrew Cotter, who's the commentator...
Because I thought the opening ceremony was probably still on.
Well, yes, I think it still is going on somewhere. But... It's incredibly difficult to win a gold medal. This is unbelievable. And most of them are solitary sports anyway.
Yeah.
And to go in and people, I was getting silver medals, and we've got Emma there, who won 3 medals. Emily Campbell in the weightlifting. Did you see her in the weightlifting? She got a bronze. She was the final one, the 65th medal.
And she did a very bad cartwheel.
Well, I don't know. It wasn't bad.
I hope she's not serious that she's going into Strictly.
Paul, I love you, but I love Sharon Davis just that little bit more.
You know what? So do I.
And
so
she's
do I.
waiting
And I'm with her
for
all
us.
the way.
So let's talk to Sharon now, Olympic swimmer and, of course, author of Unfair Play, the battle for women's sport. Sharon, it's so nice to see you. We've missed you so much during the Olympics because obviously you were contracted to the...
Look, I have my flag. This went all the way to Paris with me. It's come all the way back again. It sits in my little space when I do all my interviews. And of course, I've been in that Olympic bubble, so I've been home for about 2 days, just about got on top of the washing like you do.
Good for you. Right, how difficult was it for you, Sharon, as somebody who's done such an amazing job in the last few years of raising awareness of really important political issues, particularly around gender and sports, to just not be able to talk about those things for a couple of weeks, presumably? You must be like a coiled spring now.
Well, no, actually, the BBC were pretty good. I mean, they enabled me to have my own personal voice about it. I think it's always about trying to be respectful and always about trying to present, the facts, as I always have anyway. So, anyone that was following my Twitter will know that I did still speak about it, and I spoke to the BBC about it, and they were, fine about it. I was entitled to that. So, yes, I mean, it was difficult, wasn't it? I hope that this will bring it to everyone's attention at long last that we have to do something properly and constructively to protect the female category. And we can't allow a passport, which anyone can apply for and change, to be, the actual qualification to be into the women's category. And it's something like boxing. I mean, it really was atrocious that we actually had biological males punching females when we know that they punch 162% harder. This was really a very, very serious accident waiting to happen. And those two, male boxers, they flew through, we're not losing a single point. So not only did they take a place from their own countries of a female athlete, they've obviously taken medals from female athletes that will never be able to get them back because the rules as they stood at the time.
Sharon, for people who are listening on the radio, we're showing at the moment a photograph of Khalif, the Algerian boxer, being held aloft by her male trainers team. But we've had lots of messages from people who are Muslims saying if she was regarded as a woman, they would not, out of respect, have held aloft a female athlete. So they pretty much, from what we were told, regard her as more male than female. Her own team.
Yes, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I know that there's been a lot of sparring. And in the sparring, this person's been sparring with men, not with women, because they couldn't find women to spar against them because they were just too powerful. So, every single piece of evidence that was there. And the IOC initially were saying that they knew nothing about this. Well, this isn't true. I mean, the IBA sent them the results of those tests that were done in 22 and 23, 14 months before the Olympic Games. It was an absolute shambles what the IOC allowed to happen in boxing. And of course, that didn't happen in track and field and in swimming and in cycling because the rules were there to protect the female category. So it's very much now up to the IOC to understand that, they can't keep preaching about gender parity if anyone can identify into the women's category. That's ridiculous.
There's speculation, Sharon, that Sebastian Coe, Lord Coe, may stand as IOC president. Is your sense that Seb would represent women from your point of view, that he might be more on side with that perspective on this very controversial issue?
Yeah, I think Thomas Bach has been very weak. As an individual, I'm not very impressed. And he tried very hard to extend his term, which, thank goodness, wasn't allowed to happen. He's been there for 11 years, and they're allowed to be there for 12, and he wanted to go for another 4. And I think it's very much time for a change. We know that change is important in lots of things, just as it is in politics. So, yes, hopefully some fresh blood, hopefully someone that's not prepared to, that's prepared to stand up to the wokerati part of society at the moment that seems to think that we shouldn't have any rules and anyone should be able to do anything. And then the people that lose out are female athletes. But I do want to say that, Britain did really well and be on a positive side because there was some fantastic stories that came out of it. You're talking about 65 medals, which is amazing. Sadly, not as many golds as we had. We had 5 in the swimming pool. And, we had 3 silvers that if you added up the difference between gold and silver in those 3 races, wouldn't have even come to 1/10 of a second. So, and so that's how close the races are. And that's how important it is that we have a fair platform for female athletes.
Sharon, just one news story that we've seen today of one young boy, we believe, has lost his life in a canal, hot day. This happens every year, doesn't it? How good are we in this country at making sure that kids can swim and are water sensible?
Yeah, such a good point, Bev. No, we're not very good. I mean, in the early 80s, I worked with government to put swimming on the national curriculum, along with other people as well, to make sure that our kids were supposedly taught 25 metres and water safety by the time they leave primary school. That's not happening. It's not often checked. Many schools, often schools that in areas of deprivation, are not making sure that their children are being able to swim. I was talking to Becky about this whilst we were out there. I think it's very important that we also include in that water safety. Because these young lads in particular think they're invincible when they're around water. And the moment the sun comes out, it's extremely tempting. And they're often the ones, unfortunately, which get themselves into difficulty. We've also lost 300 pools since COVID. So we have a massive problem with facilities as well, and we need to replace those. So there's two ways to be able to attack this. One is education, as it always is, and the other is to make sure that there are pools for kids to go and learn to swim. Here's a good little thing for you to know as well, because obviously you were talking about the athletes not being at the closing ceremony. They're not allowed to stay in the village. So actually they're allowed 2 days and then they have to leave.
Wow.
Oh, is that? But that wasn't always the way, though, Sharon, was it? In your day, you were allowed to stay.
It is now. So they're no longer allowed to stay to the end of the competition.
But what's the logic of that?
That was a COVID thing, wasn't it?
Good question. I mean, I love the fact that I was able to stay and go and support all the other athletes. I mean, of course. Financial one, you know, obviously you have to pay for those positions in the village. Quite a few of them did opt to stay in town, because I saw Freya Anderson there, and I remember Freya saying to me, I'm going to stay, you know, because I want to go to the closing ceremony. So they're allowed to go to the closing ceremony, they're just not allowed to be in the Olympic Village.
I think that was the COVID Olympics. They kicked everyone out, didn't they, for infection control, and they just never bring it back again. Clever.
Sharon, lovely to talk to you as always.
Great
to have you back. Sharon Davis, of course, who is one of our greatest Olympians. I didn't know that.
Yeah, great.
No, but that's mean-spirited. Saving money, penny pinching of the worst sort.
But it's used as an excuse.
Now, breaking news, more than 18,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel so far this year. The biggest single day of arrivals under the new Labour government has just been and gone. How many, Mark, was it?
Mark White's with us.
Mark White with us, sorry, forgive me.
Security editor.
703 people came across the English Channel yesterday in 11 small boats. Now, this issue, understandably, has not got as much coverage.
I knew it would.
Given that the riots have been boiling over for recent days. The two are not unrelated.
Quite.
Given the tensions that the arrival of these people illegally across the Channel is causing in communities across the country. So a very busy day yesterday. It takes the total who've arrived across the Channel so far this year to 18,342, and that's 13% up on where we were last year. So the new Labour government is in the process of creating a border security command. They want to go after the people smugglers.
We've already got one.
But in the meantime...
We've already got one, Mark. You and I know that. They're just calling it something different.
Well, yeah, certainly I can't see much apart from an extra focus on going after the people smugglers that's that much different, because the previous small boats operational command that the Conservatives had in operation was a command that did also go after the people smugglers. Yesterday, we should say as well, one boat came very close to landing on a beach, St Margaret's Bay, near Dover in Kent. And that's the first time for 2.5 years that a boat has come this close. It took Border Force by surprise, came out of the morning sea mist, and was just metres, really, from landing on the beach.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. Right, we've got some good news for you, hopefully.
Well, I doubt it.
If you're not satisfied with your water company, I'm not sure it's that good news. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The court on Wednesday ruled that a teenager was wrongly ignored before being forced into end-of-life care. Sudiksha Thirumalesh, who was 19, died last year after being prevented from travelling abroad for treatment after doctors said her condition was incurable. Doctors said Ms. Thirumalesh's objection to their decision was unreasonable and that she should have all life-sustaining treatment ended and be put on a palliative care pathway. Last August, a ruling said that the teenager lacked mental capacity to make her own decisions, but 3 judges in the Court of Appeal overturned that decision last week. Lawyers said the move reaffirms the right of patients to disagree with their doctors. The teenager remained fully conscious while being treated by the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. Well, to discuss this tragic case, Sudiksha's father, Thirumalesh, and brother, Varshan, join me now. Thank you so much for joining me in these desperately sad circumstances. This is very important for other people who may find themselves in a similar position, that they will be able to make decisions about their own care with the support of their families, rather than the sometimes arrogance of the medical profession who think that they know best. So you must be, I hope, very reassured by this judgment that Sudiksha has achieved something for other people.
Yes, definitely, because
This arrogance transformed into cruelty towards my sister's care and ill treatment of the whole family. They think they are on the top of the hierarchical spectrum, and they treated us like we were on the bottom of the lower end of the chains, or rather as low class, but we ensured that our class remained.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10:26. It's yes, it's Britain's News with GB News. Andrew Pierce, we've got the panel here. Who have we got today?
We've got Jadisa De Silva and Emma Wolfe are with us. Good to see you both.
Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us this morning. Right, shall we? It's just almost too awful to discuss. It's the front page of the Telegraph this morning.
Quite a few pages,
the funeral of little Alice. It is. Sorry, it's
the photograph. Can we show that photograph so people can see?
This is 9-year-old Alice De Silva next to the cardboard cutout of Taylor Swift before the dance class in Southport. We showed it on the menu at the top of the show, didn't we? Where this was her.
There she is. They've got it.
Going into the dance class.
She's so excited. It's the picture of innocence. That is a picture of innocence, and within minutes, evil has arrived. And of course, it was her funeral yesterday, and the family put out that extraordinary statement, wondering if she cried out for them in the end. The parents. I mean. Emma, how...
It's the summer holidays. It's a picture of her first, what she's going to do in the summer holidays. I was dropping my toddler at the summer group today, and I was just thinking that little 9-year-old should be getting excited about the warm weather, what she's going to do for the next 3-4 weeks. And there she is, and they're having her funeral last night.
And we with
quite apart from all the things that
I know, and the family had revealed as well that her 6-year-old sister was at the same dance class, so actually saw her big sister being savagely murdered. The scars for that child.
Scars for that child, and also,
let alone
as
the
you say, the parents going over and over again in your mind what she went through in her final moments.
Yeah.
Completely unimaginable.
I mean, it's harrowing just to think, because I kept looking at interviews with bereaved parents who've been through similar tragedies, and the same thing they would always say is, like, instinctively, particularly with mothers, is you just know your child was calling for you in that moment, and that is what haunts them most of all, and knowing they now have to manage the PTSD of their other child before even beginning to navigate what they're going through.
Their own grief.
It's like multiple trauma over trauma.
They've been so courageous, and I thought it was very courageous to allow the cameras into the funeral service, because some people said to me, oh, it's outrageous. They would not have been in there without the family's permission.
Exactly.
And they wanted that message, which was their message, which the Chief Constable delivered, not in my name, the head teacher talking about it too.
Exactly, and it's so unfair that the parents have had to go through all of the collateral damage and the unrest across this country since then, when they are, as you say, going through the most unimaginable time. And there's something about, a Taylor Swift dance group. The excitement of grown women or men about getting Swiftie tickets. There's a kind of... And Taylor Swift herself, who is seems to be such a warm and lovely person. Yeah. It all centres around this completely incomprehensible event, which has, as I say, 9-year-old who doesn't have any summer holidays.
Just evil. 3 little girls.
Why?
Yeah.
I think the parents are remarkable human beings, because even that choice of having the cameras coming, they're constantly thinking about, they've accepted there's something bigger happening as a result of this. What can I do to make things better? So I feel guilt that they shouldn't have to deal with any of this. Let them have a private funeral, but they're just thinking the optics of seeing that small coffin will make people just stop, because it made me stop. And I just say that these are exceptionally powerful, strong-willed human beings to go through that and see beyond themselves, even in such a profound moment of grief.
Yeah, and the vicious, stupid moron headbangers who were smashing up property must look at those images.
I hope they do, and I hope it gives them pause for thought as well, because it's just, you know... There are no words, really.
Let's look at another story here. Juditha, this knockdown prices for the green belt. So councils are to be given new powers to compulsory buy up green belt land.
The move is towards meeting that target by 2030 of building 1.5 million homes. The idea is that they're going to prioritise brownfield sites and low-quality land in the Greenbelt area, and then relax the legislature around getting planning permission. But there's also a prerequisite that developers would have to build up green spaces in that. When you look at the kind of targets the Labour government has to meet by 2030, they're going to have to make some questionable or difficult decisions, because you can't execute perfectly with something that is so massive in its scope. So I do understand what they're doing, and they're not going gay abandoned in the Greenbelt area. They're looking at this is land that's pretty much redundant. We can do something beneficial for the whole community with that.
I think that's a very optimistic assessment.
Right.
I suspect that some prime Greenbelt land will now be under huge pressure.
We really need to be careful kind of what we wish for. It's a difficult one, because we know we need more housing. We all want more housing, but we all want our green spaces. We know about NIMBYism. NIMBYism is when people go, yeah, but not here. Not near me, not around us. There is a lot of grey, you know, the grey belt, the brown belt, all of that isn't being used properly. But, you know, that was Labour promising 1.5 million new homes with gay abandon, and now they need to actually deliver on that. And they need to talk to builders as well, and the construction companies, because they can't just deliver
you
like
can't
that.
just say how are they going to instruct a local authority to build it if they've got a planning committee which may say, we've looked at all the issues, not here.
Exactly.
So local councillors' view will no longer matter?
Well, are they going to override them? Because it
Yes.
isn't as simple as this. It isn't as simple as just putting it in your manifesto and promising it. You've got to deliver.
No, but I think I do give them credit that you have to do things that are difficult and be the bad guy, because then when it comes to the point of involving local councils and MPs, that this is a decision that needs to be made, this is the target that needs to be met. If you put a stop to it, you are the stopping block, you are the bottleneck, and are you comfortable being that when you know this is what we're trying to achieve?
But it's not just homes. It's not just homes. When you dump people in a load of places, you also need schools and hospitals and transport networks.
Roads.
You know, you need quite a lot. And also you need to look at the root causes of why we are under so much pressure to provide so many millions of new homes.
And is there also some detail, Juditha, about the fact that they're capping the profit that landowners can make from the sale of their land? How does that work?
I don't know how that works.
That is something that, if I'm a property owner or a landowner, this is a window of opportunity for a smash and grab, and they have to mitigate that potential disaster, because it's almost one step forward, 10 steps back. So if you have ownership to a certain... it's almost like when you have gentrification and you happen to have a house you're not using that's in a very key area they want to build up, and you can just hold out and hold out and hold out until you get an extortionate amount of money.
Because what they're getting at here is that a number of developers have got prime pieces of land and they refuse to build it because they're waiting for the land price to rise, so they then get more return for the house. So the government say they're going to break that. But again, legally, I don't know how they do that. They're going to have to get new laws to do it.
They are going to have to do that. But when you look,
it's the state taking far more powers again.
You've got to counteract opportunism, which is what would happen with those developers who have an asset they know would appreciate based on how desperate the government gets.
If you're an old couple that have got a little plot of land that you've kept for decades, that you maybe bought for nothing in the 70s or the 80s, and then you can make a significant profit on it, and the government come along and say, no, I'm really sorry, we're not going to... It's almost like compulsory purchase.
Well, exactly what it is.
And also they can make your life pretty unpleasant. They can make it pretty hellish for you if they say, OK, we'll just develop around you. Yeah. You know, if you are an old couple with this tiny, precious plot of land, it sounds like a Hollywood movie. But, I mean, they can make it pretty unpleasant for people. They can pressure people into moving out.
There's a surprising number of people who are like that in the country, though. It's not that all the land is owned by your Barratt Homes and your Greenpeace and everybody else. So sometimes there are little... For some people, that has been their pension pot.
Yeah.
But they've got to move on this, because this is one of their big pledges, isn't it?
And they have to do it quickly, so time's of the essence.
Yeah.
But I do think involving local councils who can speak up for the small independent owner, it's something you have to deal with on a case-by-case basis as opposed to one size fits all.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
OK, right. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Judita. Up next, would you support your local council bringing in £100 on-the-spot fines for swearing in public?
Well, I'm not saying that next word. You can.
I'm not saying it. We will be debating that.
Yes, thank you.
This is
Whoever
Britain's
wrote
Newsroom.
that swear word into the script.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, this week starts off on a hot and humid note, and that humidity is also giving way to some thunderstorms. The thunderstorms are already going across parts of northern England and Scotland. Warnings are in force here throughout the morning and early afternoon. After a fairly lively night across parts of Northern Ireland, it is cheering up here, some sunshine developing, but really the main bulk of the sunshine will be further south across England and Wales. The heat here could just trigger the odd thunderstorm, but most will be dry. But it's going to be an uncomfortable feeling day. Some places in the east potentially reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, it's going to remain fine and dry across many parts of England and Wales. Could again just see the odd thunderstorm breaking out, but most will miss them, and temperatures only slowly falling away. Could still see temperatures in their 30s as we head into the evening. Northern Ireland, Northern England and most of Scotland seeing a drier end to the day. Winds also easing here too, but could just hang on to the rain across Shetland as we end Monday evening. So for most, it will be a fairly dry night, but a fairly warm and humid one, especially across the south. Temperatures potentially holding up above 20 degrees in a few spots. But out towards the west, we will see this next band of rain and cloud move in, and that will herald something a little bit fresher, but it is going to be a bit of a slow process as we go through Tuesday. So a dry sunny start for most of us on Tuesday, but the rain in the west will slowly spread its way eastward, so turning increasingly cloudy and damp for many western and eventually into some central areas too. But further east you are hanging on to the sunshine and also the heat. It won't be as hot across the east compared to today, but still highs reaching around 28 or possibly 29 degrees.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. ScotRail train services aren't running between Edinburgh, Waverley and Bathgate because of a gas leak near the railway. There's a limited rail replacement bus service. In Derbyshire, the A515 is blocked each way along Buxton Road at Ashbourne, causing delays. In Northamptonshire, Sheep Street in Wellingborough is closed for an investigation. In London, on the North Circular, it's down to a single lane westbound for repairs at the Brent Cross flyover. Queues from the A1 at Henley's Corner. The North Circular is also partly blocked southbound by an accident at the Ilford flyover, with queues from the A12 at Redbridge. On the M26 in Kent, there are queues approaching the M25 with delays on the clockwise M25 towards there because of roadworks. At the Port of Dover, there's a wait of up to an hour at border control. There's disruption to First Bus South-West routes in Somerset and Cornwall because of industrial action, and Skybus flights to and from the Isles of Scilly delayed by up to 3/4 of an hour because of poor weather.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
(10:38). This is Britain's Newsroom.
Well, a Labour-run council, here we go, has imposed a controversial new order to fine people £100 for swearing in the street.
Do you know what? It just makes me want to go up to Thanet District
And swear.
area and just walk up and down the street
Go
swearing.
bleep, bleep, bleep.
This council is facing a legal challenge after adopting this public spaces protection order that bans behaviour that might distress people.
Who is going to enforce it? How's it going to be enforced? What are they going to do with the money? Can they just actually do their job and sort out dog poo?
It's literally policing language. I don't like swearing. I don't like swearing. I certainly wouldn't swear in front of children on the street. It's just...
But sworn in front of me.
Seriously, is this literally the country we want to live in? We're joined by journalist and podcaster from The Spectator Australia, Will Kingston, and child behavioural expert Amanda Jenner. Good morning to you both. So, Will Kingston, what do you make of this? What kind of country is Great Britain becoming when you might have somebody give you a £100 fine for saying a swear word in public?
I miss the days when councillors took pride in just taking out the bins and assessing planning applications. But that's obviously not sexy enough for councillors to have something interesting to say at lefty cocktail parties. So here we are. That's the country we're in today. This is yet another attack on free speech in this country. And it's not just swearing, guys. It is the grey areas like political protest, public performance art, where you will see that ideology is being imposed here.
And of course, it's this idea that what you say might cause someone distress. That is entirely subjective.
Of course it is. And also, what is a swear word? Well, a swear word in Australia might be different to a swear word in Thanet.
Don't give us any examples,
No.
just pointing out that people in Australia do listen to us. But let's bring in Amanda Jenner, child behavioural expert. Amanda, do you think sometimes adults are a bit loose with language in front of children now, using profanities, let's say, and that we should be drawing a distinction for kids?
Yes, I do. I mean, and the thing is, you know, you hear it all the time in the streets, and little children are like sponges, and they pick these words up, and, you know, in an awkward position, they just come out and say it. So I really think, you know, I don't know how they're going to police it, but I think it would be a good thing to stop this, because, you know, I work a lot with little children, they come out with these words, and I'm like, oh, where did you hear that? You know, and that's the thing, they repeat it and then they think it's the norm to do it. And then when they get to school, they use it freely. So, yeah, I think, you know, it is a good idea, but I don't know how they're going to implement it, to be honest.
Amanda, I hear that. And, of course, we don't want children growing up with bad language. In our house, if you swore, you had Palmolive soap shoved in your mouth, and you didn't do that again in a hurry. But isn't most of the swearing that the swear words they learn in the school or perhaps at home, I don't think they're going to hear a swear word in the street and think, oh, that's a new word, I'll use that. I just think it's not... The problem this council has identified is in the wrong place. It's not in the street, it's probably in the schools, and that's an issue for the schools.
Yeah, I agree, but they've heard it from somewhere. So, yeah, like you say, either at home or... But they do hear it, you know, in the streets. I mean, I'm away at the moment, and I hear loads of like teenagers swearing and stuff. And the thing is with toddlers, you think they're not listening, but they actually do. They actually do listen, and they just come out with it, and you're like, wow, you know, that was a big word, because they do listen. You think they're preoccupied, but they are quite clever little things. And I think, yes, at home, it needs to stop at home. We need to, you know, as parents, we need to teach them this is the wrong thing to do, to use bad language. And I agree. I remember, you know, if I ever did, which I didn't really, but, you know, we're going to get that soap and wash your mouth out. And that used to really scare me. So I think we need to be harder at home, 100%. We have to lead by example, definitely.
What's occurring to me, Will, when I'm hearing this, is that actually we need more speech in order to educate children about what is and isn't acceptable, polite conversation to have, not just a sort of a clamping down on what people say. Do you know what I mean? I know we're in sort of murky territory at the moment in terms of free speech in this country, but what do you make of what Amanda was saying?
I think this swearing thing is a facade. Whenever you want to curb free speech, the first thing you always do is do the whole please think of the children routine, because it's harder to argue against. This is not about swearing. We already have the Public Order Act that protects against that sort of speech. In public, that's fine. I don't have a massive problem with it. This is about imposing ideology upon people. And to your point at the very start, it will be imposed subjectively by Labor councillors who have a problem with, say, far-right groups or whatever that means. And the last people say that it will be imposed on protesters would be, say, Islamic protesters or people that they have more sympathy towards. This is about ideology. It is not about swearing.
How chilling is it to you, Will, that this is what's happening here in the UK now, that you can have some trumped-up councillor prepared to issue a £100 ticket if somebody doesn't like what you say, even if there are no consequences to what you say?
I think it's very sad, but I think the right has just as much responsibility here as the left. We had 14 years of a Conservative government where they did nothing to support free speech. And to be honest, we've forgotten how to argue for free speech on first principles. Even the speech, which may be unpleasant or it may be even hateful, it is still better to hear that speech than the alternative, which is banning it. And not enough people are arguing like that and arguing effectively in modern Britain.
Amanda, when you deal with children as a behavioural expert, what are you seeing in your therapy room about whether kids feel concerned or anxious about what they can and can't say in schools particularly?
I think the problem is going back to what we're saying about obviously being outside and hearing the swearing and stuff. I think a lot of it as well is because of a lot of children, young children I'm seeing, 3 years old, have got a telephone or on social media, and they're hearing a lot of it there as well. So I think you're in a very different world today. You know, when I was young, we didn't have any of it. And now children are playing these games that have got swear words in them and, you know, all this different language they're using. So I think, you know, it's very difficult for parents to police this. But I think, you know, schools could teach them a little bit more about the language they use, so we don't have this imposed £100 fine left, right and centre, because I think they'd make a lot of money if they walk the streets hearing everybody swearing. But I think we've just got to, you know, it starts at home and it continues in school, and it's about educating those children what's right and wrong. And the biggest thing I'm seeing is the lack of manners, which is a simple free thing that you can teach your children. And manners, because children are so addicted to these games and they don't want to get off them, they're losing it, their tempers, and you know, and I think it's manners. If we teach them basic manners, it's not, you know, it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, and that underpins so much. I feel like societally we've given up on that. It's almost like we've given up on that completely,
Well, we
the
shouldn't.
idea of decency.
All right, that was journalist and podcast from the Spectator Australia, Will Kingston, and child behavioural expert Amanda Jenner. Yeah, I never ever swore in front of my mum. Ever.
Sometimes, and she gets really cross with me.
Yeah, but Mum didn't swear either, nor did my dad.
Sometimes the right swear word in the right context is brilliant.
Do you ever swear in front of your children?
I try not to. No, I don't.
That means you do?
No. I have occasionally, if I've lost my mind for a moment, I might have in a curse. But you know what? They also have to know that language is powerful.
Yeah.
And I treat them that you don't walk into a job interview and swear. You don't swear on national TV. But sometimes, you know, and they also have to understand that language can offend. And that they do have to know that it can offend, and you do have to be careful.
The only swear word I ever heard my mum use began BU. That one. But very occasionally.
Was it bum?
No. And then you knew you were in trouble if that word came out. Now, up next, find out how the government's latest crackdown on water companies could leave you with more money in your pocket. I'm not so sure about that.
No, me neither.
This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Prince Harry also revealed that he wouldn't bring his wife Meghan Markle back to the UK over safety concerns.
Let's talk to royal correspondent Michael Cole.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Ellie. I mean, they live in California. I'm not sure what the murder rate is there, but that's a more dangerous place than Britain's at any time of the day. And of course, he compromised his own safety when he said in his book, Spare, his autobiography, which was Ghost Britain, that he'd personally killed 25 Taliban when he was serving with the British Army in Afghanistan. Well, that painted a target for life on the back of himself and his family, which was a very unwise thing for him to do. The other thing which struck me, it was that he invoked the name of the late Queen, saying that he'd had several conversations with his grandmother, and she'd been very, very supportive in his battle. He sees himself, and it's the word he's used, as a dragon slayer against the popular press, the tabloid press, and he's continuing with that. Of course, his brother, Prince William, has settled, but also in the programme was Hugh Grant. Now, Hugh Grant also has settled, as indeed did I, when I received an apology from News Group. I believe in a free and unfettered press. Newspapers are having a bad time at the moment, losing circulation, losing advertising. Young people don't read newspapers. And so I felt that the right thing to do was to settle. I didn't want to take punitive action against newspapers.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
10:50, Britain's Newsroom, GB News.
So this is a good headline for the government. They're going to double compensation for poor customer service from water companies. You're all jumping up and down saying, well, it's useless to water services, water companies at the moment. The proposals will increase the amount of reimbursement that customers are legally entitled to if the plan makes it past the 8-week consultation period.
So let's speak now to expert on this, founder of Waterways Protection, Philip Greenwood, and friend of the show. Philip, how is this different? What's it going to mean for viewers watching this?
Not a lot of difference, really. We've always had these compensation schemes in place. If, you know, the repairman comes late, or if sewage is, you know, backed up into your bathroom, there's always been some sort of small compensation. And actually, the compensation hasn't changed since the year 2000. So there's been no change whatsoever. So today, here we are at 2024. And the inflation's been at around 86%. So actually, if you discount the increase is exactly like 13.6%.
So if you did get a sewage in your home, very unpleasant, how much compensation currently would you get, and what are you going to get under this new scheme?
OK, so this is kind of interesting. So what they've said is that if you do get sewage into your home, then the maximum that they will pay is no more than the amount of your wastewater part of your sewage bill. So they'll only refund you the part of what you pay for your wastewater. So it's not even the full bill. So it's like 50% or 100% of the waste element of your water bill. So that's it.
OK, so a lot of people won't realise is with your water bill, you pay partly for the water you receive for that service, and then you pay partly for the water that goes out of the house. So what they're saying is, we'll take that bit off your bill. And is that a lot of money, Philip, for people? Like, are we talking the thousands of pounds a year?
If you've got floor carpets that are ruined by sewage?
No, I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, obviously, you'd have to go to your home insurance to get that sorted out. But in terms of
and then your premium goes up. Thank you very much.
Well, the premium might go up. I'm not an insurance expert, but it might go up. But what they basically said is, look, the sewage element, if you get sewage in your home, we're capping it at 50 to 100% of that element. That's it. You know, this, obviously, it's just sort of piecemeal. It's just the people at the PR departments of the institutions that own the water companies, or whoever's got the, whoever's got the PR thing. They're just trying to generate a story. But the real story is it's not a doubling. If you want to, obviously, I know you guys want to report accurately, but it's a 13% increase above inflation.
Let me ask you, this government is making a big thing about going after the water companies, quite right too, and they're going to fine them for all these various pollution problems. Millions of pounds in fines. Where does the money go? And does it come out of the punter's pocket?
Well, we talk about fines, but, you know, we had, obviously, last week there was a lot of headlines at the beginning of the week, about £168 million.
Yeah, where does it go?
Fine. Well, I mean, you ask where it goes, and when you ask where it goes, you assume that the fine is going to get paid. But it's not. I mean, that was a proposal of a fine. Many of these fines are proposals, and sometimes the fines actually never get paid. What they'll do is they'll bring out new schemes. Like they just gave them 21 million for like an AI development project. And of course, they're not going to do anything with it. So they're just simply moving pots of money around amongst each other just to generate headlines, just to create the impression that the government and the civil servants are not doing the job. And all they're doing is they're just playing around with an Excel sheet. They're literally trolling the nation at this point.
Philip,
You tell
thank
it so
you for
well.
your common sense. Brilliant. Right, don't go anywhere. Teachers are going to tell kids how to spot fake news online. Honestly, here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, this week starts off on a hot and humid note, and that humidity is also giving way to some thunderstorms. The thunderstorms already going across parts of northern England and Scotland. Warnings are in force here throughout the morning and early afternoon. After a fairly lively night across parts of Northern Ireland, it is cheering up here, some sunshine developing, but really the main bulk of the sunshine will be further south across England and Wales. The heat here could just trigger the odd thunderstorm, but most will be dry, but it's going to be an uncomfortable feeling day. Some places in the east potentially reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, it's going to remain fine and dry across many parts of England and Wales. Could again just see the odd thunderstorm breaking out, but most will miss them, and temperatures only slowly falling away. Could still see temperatures in their 30s as we head into the evening. Northern Ireland, Northern England and most of Scotland seeing a drier end to the day. Winds also easing here too, but could just hang on to the rain across Shetland as we end Monday evening. So for most, it will be a fairly dry night, but a fairly warm and humid one, especially across the south. Temperatures potentially holding up above 20 degrees in a few spots. But out towards the west, we will see this next band of rain and cloud move in, and that will herald something a little bit fresher, but it is going to be a bit of a slow process as we go through Tuesday. So a dry sunny start for most of us on Tuesday, but the rain in the west will slowly spread its way eastward, so turning increasingly cloudy and damp for many western and eventually into some central areas too. But further east you are hanging on to the sunshine and also the heat. It won't be as hot across the east compared to today, but still highs reaching around 28 or possibly 29 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Celebrate a spectacular summer with your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash in our Great British Giveaway. It's the biggest prize of the year so far, and it's totally tax-free. What would you spend that on? Luxury holidays, a new car, or just put it away for a rainy day? Whatever you do with £30,000 in tax-free cash, make sure you don't miss out on a chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 11 a.m. on Monday, the 12th of August, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
So, is there any respect left for the police? The Home Secretary has condemned the brazen abuse that officers have faced during the riots as she pledges to restore law and order.
And sadly, it's been revealed this morning the England cricket legend and father of two, Graeme Thorpe, took his own life.
And fake news, what is and what isn't true, is going to be taught in schools. Apparently, children are going to be taught how to spot extremist content and fake news online in a push to encourage critical thinking. Is it really that?
Time to get your shorts on. Britain braced for the hottest day of the year, with parts of the UK set to be hit by a 34-degree-centigrade heatwave.
Fabulous. And did you watch the Olympic closing ceremony? Tom Cruise brought the games to a close in Paris. William and Kate congratulated Team GB on their performance.
From all of us watching at home, congratulations to Team GB.
Well done on all you've achieved. You've been an inspiration to us all.
And on that video message to Team GB, people were commenting on Prince William's beard, calling it bold.
Scruff.
Let us know your thoughts this morning. gbnews.com/your say. And is it hotting up where you are? Are you sat listening to us on the radio in the garden? Are you watching us on your phone somewhere nice? Let us know what you're doing. First, the very latest news with Cameron.
Thanks, Bev. Good morning. It's 1 minute past 11. I'm Cameron Walker here in the GB Newsroom. More than 18,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel so far this year, according to official figures. That's after 703 migrants crossed yesterday, the highest number on a single day since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. It comes after 2 migrants died attempting to cross the Channel to reach the UK in small boats. The UK could see its hottest day of the year today, with temperatures reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius. Central England is expected to feel the most intense conditions. Further north, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for thunderstorms, flash flooding and travel disruptions alongside Northern Ireland and Scotland. Meteorologist Jim Dale says the high temperatures are consistent with the summer season.
We've seen 30 degrees now about 6 or 7 times somewhere in the UK on separate days. So it's not like we haven't had a summer. We certainly have. And if we're talking about 33, 34 here, well, in places like Paris, Madrid and Rome, we're talking about 37, 38. A lot hotter there, and that's going to test some people.
A boy has died after being pulled from a canal in Wolverhampton. West Midlands Ambulance Service was called to a canal off Hendon Avenue in Ettingshall just after 6 last night. Police officers pulled the boy from the water before paramedics and a trauma doctor arrived. But despite their best efforts, he could not be saved and was confirmed dead at the scene. The Home Secretary has said respect for the police must be restored after they faced brazen abuse and contempt during the rioting. Yvette Cooper says it's crucial to maintain a strong police response on the ground and keep up the pace of arrests and prosecutions. Police remained on high alert over the weekend, but there was no widespread unrest. Train delays caused by signal failures have cost passengers almost 1 million minutes since the 2018-19 financial year. That's according to Network Rail figures provided to the Liberal Democrats after a Freedom of Information request. The party is calling for a freeze on rail fares in response to poor services. Labour has promised to bring all passenger railway services back into public ownership. Customers receiving poor services from water companies could get more than double the usual compensation under new government proposals. The list of circumstances that can trigger compensation could also expand under plans, including automatic payments for those issued boiler notices. Environment Secretary Steve Reed said the government hopes to turn the tide on the disruption of our waterways. The Prime Minister has joined French and German leaders in a call for de-escalation and regional stability in the Middle East. In a joint statement with France's Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Olaf Scholz, Keir Starmer has urged Iran and its allies not to jeopardise the opportunity to agree a ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. The Prime Minister spoke with leaders in the Middle East last week during a call with the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and in Downing Street with Sultan Haitham bin Tariq Al Said of Oman. Russia has evacuated 11,000 people from parts of the Belgorod region as Ukrainian forces ramp up military activity near the border. It comes just days after parts of another Russian region was evacuated following Ukraine's biggest attack on sovereign Russian territory since the start of the war in 2022. Ukrainian forces rammed through the border last Tuesday in a surprise attack that may be aimed at gaining an advantage in possible ceasefire talks after the US election. England cricketer Graeme Thorpe took his own life after battling years of anxiety and depression, according to his family. In a statement, his wife Amanda said she and Graeme's 2 daughters are devastated he took his own life earlier this month, following an earlier suicide attempt in 2022. Thorpe, who died aged 55, has been hailed as one of England's best cricket players, with a distinguished international career, hitting 16 Test hundreds for England. Team GB athletes are set to return home after a successful Paris Olympics. Great Britain ended the Games with 65 medals, the same number won at London 2012, and second best ever tally on foreign soil. Last night, the King and Queen sent their warmest congratulations, and His Majesty hailed Team GB's athletes as an inspiration. The Prince and Princess of Wales also congratulated Team GB in a special video featuring Snoop Dogg and David Beckham.
Greetings, loved ones.
From all of us watching at home, congratulations to Team GB.
Well done on all you've achieved. You've been an inspiration to us all.
And Prince William sporting a new beard there as well. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Lots of you getting in touch this morning. This idea that you could be fined £100 for saying something that might cause distress on the street. Cynthia said, stop swearing in the streets. OK, then stop it in the council offices too. Nikolai Ceausescu, here he comes. Selena has said another form of control. John has said, I believe I recently heard someone say there were upwards of 1 million unfulfilled planning permissions for residential buildings in the UK. This is about whether Labour will compulsory purchase Greenbelt. If that is the case, then the government should give those holders 6 months to complete their build or lose their planning permissions and return to square one. It's a very good point.
Yeah, I think what happens is some of the developers get what they call an outline planning permission to build on the land, but they then have to submit detailed applications on the scale, how many and the start, and they never get beyond the outline planning application, and they sit on the land for some years. That's where we are. And Labour is saying they're going to now change that and compulsory purchase the land at cut price. How can they decide what is the cut price if they just refuse to sell it?
This isn't.
What, we're going to have a council that says you will sell it to us because we're going to change the law. How does that work?
This government appears to not feel accountable to anyone. That's the impression that I'm getting. They're acting with absolute impunity. They've got 2/3 of the seats in the House of Commons with 1/3 of the votes. Remember that. 2-year Keir is what I'm hoping.
And 80% didn't vote for it because of the terrible turnout.
Well, listen, Cynthia said teaching children to recognise conspiracy theories, etc., is so that they can be taught to only believe what the government tells them. It is very, very dangerous, says in capital letters. It is not funny. I agree with you, Cynthia. We're going to be talking to somebody about that later this morning, about whether the teachers are best placed to tell children what is fact and what is fiction?
I'm probably a bit old-fashioned, but I quite like to talk about 1066 and all that, and algebra, and pronouns and verbs, and leave the other stuff to the parents. Now, some sad news this morning. It's been revealed the England cricketer Graeme Thorpe took his own life after battling years of anxiety and depression.
In a statement, his wife Amanda has said that she and Graeme's 2 daughters are devastated that he took his life earlier this month following an earlier suicide attempt in 2022.
Graeme Thorpe was 55. He was hailed as one of England's best ever cricket players with a distinguished international career, hitting 16 Test hundreds for England.
So we're joined now by Sally Baker, who is a therapist with a specialism in trauma. Good to talk to you again, Sally. We know that suicide is the biggest killer of men, amazingly, under 45.
Yes.
Is this incident slightly unusual that Graeme Thorpe was 55, and one might have thought that somehow we kind of have this idea that you sort of settle into middle age with a sort of contentment, but clearly not.
Clearly not, and we don't have the full picture of what happened here, but we have already been told that he's suffered years of anxiety and depression. So he's really battled for a long time, and this was not his first attempt at suicide. So it's very sad.
Sally, the saddest thing reading the interview that his wife has given to Mike Atherton in The Times, she used the expression, she said that despite having a wife and 2 daughters he loved and who loved him, he didn't get any better. He was so unwell in recent times, he believed that's Mum and the 2 girls, would be better off without him, and we're devastated he took his own life. People listening and watching were thinking, how desperate can a person be that despite the great love from these 3 women, and he also had 2 children from a previous marriage, it wasn't enough?
It wasn't enough, and it's not external influences or other people that can stop such a sad event occurring. When people are on this pathway, there's very little you can do. It seems like they did their very best to make him feel loved. But, you know, there's something, it's about whether people let that love in, whether they're able to accept and receive that love, and perhaps he wasn't. I mean, it's very difficult to even assume or suggest what was going on in his mind, but clearly these were desperate times and his family are devastated.
I wonder, because, look, he was an incredibly famous, glamorous sportsman in the public eye, much loved. He was very successful as a cricketer, he was very successful as a coach. And perhaps when that begins to fade, is it then for some people, when reality and the grip on reality starts to be prized apart?
It's interesting because that group of citizens, athletes, sportsmen at a very high level, often have the most resilience because it's trained into them that, you know, personal bests always end in targets to be beaten by the next cohort. Failure is almost in the DNA of sports people because they eventually have to give up or they get superseded by the next generation. So they understand, and they're often trained for peak performance, but they're often trained to cope and be resilient. And this hasn't happened for him. I mean, we're not going to know. We're not going to know the full story, perhaps ever, about his background, his childhood, all of the things that could have influenced him on this pathway.
Rates of depression, Sally, I think statistically are very high with professional athletes, particularly, and it's that double-edged sword. You know, wanting to kick a ball better than anyone else or throw a ball is sort of illogical as an adult. It doesn't sort of, on paper, it doesn't really make sense. But that drive, and thank goodness those people do that drive to make them throw that ball better than anyone, so kick a football, can also mean that it can be difficult to live life after the sport because that is what sustained your self-esteem.
It's self-esteem and self-worth. They're very closely aligned, and it's not always the most natural and healthy way to assess your self-worth by external gongs, gold medals, silver medals, and all the rest of it. You have to believe. You have to believe in your own self-worth, whatever else happens. That's inner resilience. That's what gets people through. Lots of sports people, we see them in their moments of glory, but often, you know, that's 4 years at an Olympics of solo early morning trainings on the field, on the track, in the pool, just with their small focused team. And then we think, oh, their life must be all this high profile, but it's not. It's slog. So that helps for very many sports people to build resilience. But when they've lost that sense of direction, sense of focus, then that's when they're most vulnerable.
OK, Sally, good to talk to you as always. Sally Baker, their trauma therapist. Adam Peaty, of course, swimmer, talk about his mental health.
Yes, of course.
And there was one of our athletes who won a medal. I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. But he also, he had a suicide attempt, and he spoke very openly about it, and then went on and won a medal on the track.
And Adam Peaty had his own demons, didn't he? He would drink, drugs and depression, but he fought back and he won silver and nearly won gold.
Yeah, he's amazing. Now, if you want advice on these sorts of issues, Samaritans.org, or you can call the Samaritans on 116 123. Now, for the latest way the government are getting involved in children's lives, well, kids at school are going to be taught, apparently, how to spot fake news and extreme content in a revamp of the curriculum.
So after last week's riot, schools are going to use lessons to teach children as young as five, how to arm themselves against, quotes, putrid conspiracy theories. Do you think children of 5 know what the word putrid means?
Well, Bridget Phillipson does, and I find her quite scary. I can't lie. We're joined now by the executive head at St Thomas's the Apostle School in London, Serge Sefai. Serge, great to see you. Right. What is the government doing, deciding it can tell teachers how to educate kids about what they read online? I find this deeply troubling.
I'm in your camp. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. My job as a head teacher is to monitor what's being taught. I employ people who are qualified to teach the subject. So the first question is, who's going to teach it? I love my teachers. They work really hard and they teach history, maths, science, etc. Are they going to train my teachers to teach this stuff? Because I don't know enough about it. I don't think adults know enough about it. And once again, is this just a gimmick to get them off the hook? Because trying to ignore what the real problem is trying to tackle this thing at source. And by source, I mean the IT companies that allow this stuff on their websites. And, of course, we don't like to talk about it, the parents. We need to control it there. There's lots of other things that worry me about this, i.e., do we risk bringing things to the table that our children shouldn't know about? We all know, give kids a dictionary, and the first thing they're going to do is look up all the rude words. If you bring this to the attention of certain children, it'll actually make them more curious about what's going on. So
such a good
nonsense.
Point.
I don't know how this is going to happen, but I would not feel comfortable about my teachers taking on this.
Yeah.
I just wanted. So, can you say no?
Well, I don't know yet. We're not getting anything through separately. This is all coming through the media. So I don't know what these government advisors do. Maybe you know more than me. But I reckon none of them have ever been in schools. I think over the last, maybe longer than this, 20 years, and during COVID, as adults, we are just abdicating our responsibility of bringing up children properly. For goodness sake. You talked about, listened to your programme all morning, about respect, manners, etc., etc. They should be part and parcel of how we bring up children collectively as a society. We've all seemed to have forgotten about it. There's excuses for bad behaviour, which only serves to confuse the kids. It's somebody else's fault. It's your home circumstances or whatever it might be. This is another example of we have a problem and let's put it into schools. Well, I'm not comfortable with my teachers teaching anything that they're not qualified to teach.
Doesn't it also, Serge, doesn't it also leave the door open for teachers to impose upon children their version of the truth, whether that is around climate change, transgender issues, anything that the teacher decides, oh, well, don't read that don't look at the GBNews website. You must only look at the BBC website. And frankly, don't even get me started on the misinformation we're seeing.
Spot on. I've been 45 years in the game. I can't tell you how many times I tell teachers, all right, leave your personal life at home, okay? That's not to be discussed, and make sure you're offline. Don't bring your private life into anything to do with school, and you're there to teach facts, not an opinion. Children will ask questions. But if we're looking at critical thinking here, that's a matter of opinion at times.
Yeah.
And as I've already said, I would not be comfortable with my teachers teaching anything that I'm not comfortable with. That's why we have curriculums. That's why we have syllabuses. That's why we have assessment. That's the other part of this thing. Is this going to be assessed as to how well it's being taught?
Yeah. Because
that's how I hold teachers to account.
Yeah.
There's an assessment at the end of it. Therefore, I will know if my teachers have taught it to the right standards.
Yeah.
It's just pie in the sky nonsense. It's just a diversionary tactic, I think. Again, I repeat, back to the source. This stuff shouldn't be online. And as we know, the whole society knows, we've got it at the moment. It's not controlled. So parents, you step in now. All right, you step in and you start controlling what these kids are online with. And I mean, I'm holding the tooth. So, you know, we talked about swearing just a little while ago, for goodness sake. Parents, you're role models. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had when it's usually a 15 or a 17-year-old preparing for their exams and they're not revised enough. And the biggest problem is, guess what? They're on their phones the whole time.
Of course it is.
Parents walk into my office on their phones, they put it right by the side. Do they think they're going to tell 15-year-olds to get off their phones when they're on it themselves 24/7?
I love you, but we have to say goodbye, Serge. We've run out of time. Serge Sefai,
what a great man.
Executive Head at St Thomas the Apostle School, and if we had more headmasters like that, we'd be in a much better place. Right, up next, why are immigrants filling more jobs than Brits since the COVID pandemic? Interesting, don't miss it. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
King Charles has launched his own aftershave, costing, wait for it, an eye-watering 135 quid for a 100 millilitre bottle, promising buyers that they can smell just like the gardens of his Highgrove country pile. Now, this is something that Meghan Markle would do, surely not the King. Is this a case of King Charles selling out, watering down the brand just like Meghan? Well, join me now to discuss this is the royal broadcaster Helena Chard. Helena, welcome to the show.
Martin,
often on the show, we've had a pop at Meghan Markle, the Sussexers, for selling out, for flogging strawberry jam, and now the King is flogging Pong. Is this really the right royal thing to do?
Do you know what? So the joy of luxury Highgrove splash, you know, at the end of the day, Highgrove is such a special place, and the Highgrove shop sells amazing things on there. And as we know, the profit actually goes towards charity. So it's the King's Foundation, which was formed in 1986. Profits go towards educational and training, and it's all to do with this sort of sustainable world. But not to forget as well the charitable aspect and the whole ethos of the King's Foundation, and that's so important. This is not just something that's going up on the website and just being sold purely to go into someone's pocket. So I think, you know, all in all, I think everyone should have a look at the Highgrove website and see what's on for sale. I mean, there are lots of really lovely, I think, pretty fairly priced products, and even more so, go and see the gardens. You know, as we know, King Charles is a keen environmentalist and the gardens are fabulous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
11:23, Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK. Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner. The panel's back. Judita De Silva and also from broadcaster Emma Wolf. They're here.
Right, Judita, what is this story about immigrants filling more jobs than Brits since COVID? Why?
I think it's quite a pointed headline to go for, but you have to, like I say, I'm always for information being given, but always give it with full disclosure. Otherwise, you run the risk of ending up where we've been for the past couple of weeks. They're talking about Indians and Nigerians being predominant. There's been a spike in how many migrants have taken jobs in the UK. But the key question is which jobs? When you look at what happened after Brexit and then the pandemic, and also Britain being a country that is seeing people live longer, so you've got a population above 65 that is growing, there was a deficit in the workforce in areas like health and adult social care. So then there was a relaxation of visa requirements, particularly health and social worker visas, to come into the country to fill those gaps. Bear in mind, when they took those jobs, which is predominantly where these numbers come from, they have the longest hours and get some of the lowest pay in the entire country. These are jobs that were not being filled by the indigenous population, nor did they want to. So they filled a deficit that required their services.
Yeah. So this is since 2019, there's been an increase of nearly 500,000 jobs in the UK filled by Indian workers and nearly 300,000 roles being taken by people from Nigeria. That's OK, Emma, surely?
I think so. I think we're all for legal migration. And as Judita points out, these are people working extremely hard for not particularly good, well, very low wages.
But is it OK when we've got so many people malingering on benefits?
It's not OK that those people are malingering on benefits. It's not OK. But, Andrew, I'm angrier about the fact that we pay these essential services, healthcare workers, so appallingly low. And I'm angry that we let young British people just languish, just come out of school, maybe not go into...
No education,
any employment or training.
Yeah.
So there are other things there, but I don't think the target, I don't think the anger should be at these workers who are working extremely hard. We've all met them, haven't we? We've gone into...
It's the system that... It's the failure of the system that means we need these people.
I actually completely agree with that, because this is potentially where misinformation slides in, because someone will read that and just take that, oh, the migrants are taking my jobs. Yeah. No, they're not. The governments did not pay social care workers enough to entice the indigenous population to see that it is worth my time and worth my effort.
Or the private care homes.
Yeah, you're not paying me what is my value. So then you went to a different country and said, come, we're still going to pay you very little value, but you're willing to work for it, so you come in and do that. And they will direct their ire at you, when really the problem is pay social care workers what they deserve, because it is a brutal and thankless job.
This is very different to coming over on small boats. This is a failure of the benefits system, it's a failure of the education system, and it's a failure of our employment system.
And we've been going round and round, we're like a hamster in the wheel.
Well, I think that's because the government will not...
They keep saying they'll make the employment system work so that it's not more advantageous to malinger on benefits, but it still is.
Yes, exactly.
For some people.
It still is, and it's absolutely an option for people, and it shouldn't be an option.
It's a career option.
So we shouldn't be pushing people into hard jobs that are paid so badly. We should be valuing these really, really important jobs. We've all had elderly parents. We've all had poorly relatives who need excellent care, and you do get excellent care from people...
You will inevitably entice young British people to go into social care when they know I will earn a decent living doing a job that is much needed.
Of course, the argument against this would be, well, if we didn't allow if we didn't allow people from India and Nigeria to take this, 800,000 jobs, then the authorities in this country, be that the private care homes or the government, would have to pay more to entice.
But there's another negative here. We were talking earlier about housing and how the government say they're going to seize this land. 800,000 people coming to do jobs that could be done here. These people have to have homes. Extra homes, they have children, families. It's a knock-on effect again.
Of course it is, and it goes back to our story about Labour and all the new homes they're promising. We are failing to get to the root of the issues and discuss them in a rational way, because everything is so polarised that we can't even talk about immigration and employment and people on benefits and all of that, because there's just anger and denial on either side.
But the numbers will go, as set to, there's a fear they will go down, because earlier this year, the Conservative government brought in the cap saying that even if you're coming in on a health and care worker visa, you cannot bring your dependents. So you're extracting individuals from their families, where they're going to be, the lion's share of their time is spent here in very difficult work with no emotional support system. They're not going to want to come.
Same with international
So now you have
but I mean, if you're bringing in a carer, do you really want them to bring 4 kids and a husband?
Well, that's what they're doing at the moment. So that, well, this is what the Conservatives tried to clamp down on. The number of dependents arriving with foreign workers tripled since 2019. That's only around the corner. In our rearview mirror, it's to 155,000, mainly driven by Indians, with 67,400 workers bringing in 71,000 dependents. In 2022.
So it's your partner and a child.
More dependents than the number
goes on and on.
But then you argue the question, then what do you do? So now you've said they can't bring their family, they're not going to want to come, so then you're going to create that vacuum in the work sector where you don't have a well-paying job that will entice locals to do it. So if you now raise the wage, where does that money
Well, you say to them, if you don't take the job, you're going to lose your benefits.
But do you really want
That's what you do.
somebody lazy, not looking after your 88-year-old mother in a care home doesn't want to be there? You want them to want to do that job.
Take the benefits off them.
Yeah, that's a slightly different target, targeting young Brits who could be working and should be working, and it'd be better for their mental health, their physical health, it'd be better for the
19-year-olds should not be on benefits full-time. There's no need for it.
Slightly different target to the people who are coming over here and working extremely hard for insultingly low levels of pay.
Should we talk about cake?
Should we talk about cake?
Let's change that.
Have you made some?
Outrageous. Should we get angry about cake?
Let's go on.
Victoria Sponge, which actually isn't all that, but anyway.
I love a Victoria Sponge.
Has lost its first spot in our hearts to cheesecake. The shocking
American, of course.
American cheesecake. So we have so these are the top 10 cakes. Cheesecake, then chocolate cake.
No, don't like that.
Carrot cake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lemon drizzle.
Lemon drizzle. Then Victoria Sponge is languishing in
only 5th place.
And then the rest are rubbish.
You nearly. Thank you, but you didn't.
You're going to say crumbly.
I nearly said they are crumpets. Number 6, Bakewell tart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really very exciting. Number
Mr. Kipling's Bakewell tart. I remember those adverts as a child. Lovely.
7, donuts. I mean, they're not really a cake. 8 is Millionaire Shortbread. Number 9, lemon meringue. And number 10, coffee cake. I think top spot should go to carrot cake.
What's your favourite?
It's got to be carrot cake.
Oh, right.
So I do like a Bakewell tart, but when it's really well made.
Can any of you make cakes?
It's really well made and really moist and has really carroty.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Can any of you make cakes?
Of course.
Can't make cake.
You can't make cake?
You can't make cake?
You can make cake. What cake do you make?
Oh, I invented a strawberry and white chocolate sponge.
If we say we don't believe you, you'll have to prove it by bringing it in next time.
I can't cook.
Well,
when they look at me, everyone says I can't.
No, I'm sure you can. That's why I asked. No, we'd be delighted, but we want to taste it.
We're showing
we want to taste it.
What looks like a microwave mark. You pour a load of cake stuff in, you put it in a microwave.
I don't ever buy cake, but I like it if someone makes it.
Oh, I have to say, one of the very good things about social media for kids is how many baking videos they watch. So my girls will now come in and they will just go in the cupboards and they will appear with a cake.
Wow.
And they watch it online and they just...
Do you know, we've never seen any of the evidence of this handiwork in this studio, ever.
Never makes it in.
OK, just Janita and Emma, thank you so much. Right, here's Cameron with the news.
Good morning, it's 11:32. I'm Cameron Walker here in the GB Newsroom. More than 18,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel so far this year. That's after 703 migrants crossed on Sunday, the highest number on a single day since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. It comes after 2 migrants died yesterday attempting to cross the Channel to the UK in a small boat. The UK could see its hottest day of the year today, with temperatures reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius. Further north, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for thunderstorms. In Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, there could be flash flooding and travel disruptions. A boy has died after being pulled from a canal in Wolverhampton. West Midlands Ambulance Service was called to a canal off Hendon Avenue in Ettingshall just after 6 o'clock last night. Police officers pulled the boy from the canal before paramedics and a trauma doctor arrived, but despite their best efforts, he could not be saved and was confirmed dead at the scene. 3 men have been charged with allegedly intending to stir up racial hatred online during the recent riots. James Aspin from Blyth, Northumberland, was charged in relation to an alleged video published on TikTok on or before the 8th of August 2024. Geraint Boyce and Jamie Michael from South Wales have both been charged in relation to the alleged publication of threatening Facebook material. All 3 will appear in court today. Customers receiving poor services from water companies could get more than double the usual compensation under new government proposals. The list of circumstances that can trigger compensation could also be expanded under the plans, including automatic payments for those issued boil notices, or when water companies fail to conduct meter readings or installations as promised. Environment Secretary Steve Reed said the government hopes to turn the tide on the disruption of our waterways. England cricketer Graeme Thorpe took his own life after battling years of anxiety and depression, according to his family. In a statement, his wife Amanda says she and Graeme's 2 daughters are devastated he took his own life earlier this month, following an earlier suicide attempt in 2022. Thorpe, who died aged 55, has been hailed as one of England's best cricket players with a distinguished international career, hitting 16 Test hundreds for England. Team GB athletes are set to return home after a successful Paris Olympics. Great Britain ended the Games with 65 medals, the same number won at London 2012, and second best ever tally on foreign soil. Last night, the King and Queen sent their warmest congratulations, and His Majesty hailed Team GB athletes as an inspiration. The Prince and Princess of Wales also congratulated Team GB in a special video message featuring Snoop Dogg and David Beckham. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Emily and Tom are here. What's coming up on the show? Back from your holiday, Tom. Nice to see you.
Yes, perhaps a little bit browner.
Not much.
Not much. No, I did wear my Factor 50.
Well done.
Oh, good.
Very hot out
so I
there.
will stay looking this young forever.
Yes, we haven't presented together for 2 weeks.
Dorian Gray.
With alternating holidays, so that it's always a little bit of continuity. But today, we're going to be looking into the state of free speech in the UK.
Good. Absolutely, we are. I mean, Elon Musk, I'm sure lots of people have seen that Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of Twitter, has been very much taking Keir Starmer to task over free speech in this country.
He's been
essentially saying that posting memes is going to be illegal.
He's been denounced at the Edinburgh Fringe today by Humza Yousaf, that fool who was the Scottish First Minister, as one of the most dangerous men on the planet. Exaggeration?
Well, this as well, having a fight with, very public fight with Humza Yousaf, calling him a, what do you call him? A racist, anti-white beta, race beta, all of this. It'll be interesting to see what happens there.
But it's fascinating. This man is the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
He owns half of all satellites that orbit the globe.
Yeah.
He has more launch capacity in terms of rockets than just about any state. I mean, this is someone who is now... I mean, I've been looking through his Twitter feed. He's just obsessed with the UK.
Yeah, he is.
Everything going on here. I mean, this is a really big deal.
Yeah.
It is. How we're looking on the global stage this weekend has been shocking. Robert Kennedy's waded in, Joe Rogan's waded in, like lots of big American influencers are looking across the pond and going, what is happening in the UK?
They absolutely are.
And they've got Starmer in their sights.
It's very interesting, isn't it? But it is true, Elon Musk, he probably has more power than your average government leader.
Oh, I'm
your
sure he
average
has.
prime minister, your average president. So we'll be looking into that, and also the classrooms, teachers now teaching your kid what's misinformation and what's not. That is worrying.
We just talked
alarm bells ringing there.
talked to a teacher saying, how do they know what's right and wrong?
Exactly, they don't, especially with current affairs. It's very different from teaching history.
Absolutely.
It's very different.
And our head teacher's going to say to the government, no, they should. 5 years old?
Hard to believe that they will.
5 years old?
And all I think about is Jacinda Ardern during the pandemic saying, we are your one source of truth. We are the government. You come to us. We are your
She did
source
say
of
that,
truth,
didn't she?
Yeah. And I remember just feeling so chilled by that. And it's so North Korean, and we're doing it.
It's very odd as well. The pandemic's such a good sort of reference point, not to dwell on too much, but the government advice changed. First they said don't wear masks. Then they said do wear masks. First they said this is all transmitted by touching things with your hands. Then they said it was airborne. I mean, these things change. The idea that there is one repository of all truth and facts actually goes against the scientific
Yes, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, talking about putrid conspiracy theories. That's very interesting. That's very
a nice
loaded,
phrase
isn't it?
to bounce off a 5-year-old, isn't it?
And what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and fact? 6 months. Right. All Out with Tom and Emily at midday.
Some of them not so.
Still to come, a question to all the men out there. How would you feel about being asked if you are pregnant before having an X-ray?
Are you pregnant?
I'm not pregnant.
Are you sure?
I'm fairly sure.
Do you have an X-ray?
pregnant?
I'm sure, but I'm sadly, I'm over 55, so I won't be asked the question because I would...
Are you too old? It doesn't matter that you're a man.
I would enjoy formulating a suitable response when they ask me.
He's been through the menopause.
Stop it.
He's already been through the menopause. Right, that latest in the wokery nonsense. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, this week starts off on a hot and humid note, and that humidity is also giving way to some thunderstorms. The thunderstorms are already going across parts of northern England and Scotland. Warnings are in force here throughout the morning and early afternoon. After a fairly lively night across parts of Northern Ireland, it is cheering up here, some sunshine developing, but really the main bulk of the sunshine will be further south across England and Wales. The heat here could just trigger the odd thunderstorm, but most will be dry, but it's going to be an uncomfortable feeling day. Some places in the east potentially reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, it's going to remain fine and dry across many parts of England and Wales. Could again just see the odd thunderstorm breaking out, but most will miss them, and temperatures only slowly falling away. Could still see temperatures in their 30s as we head into the evening. Northern Ireland, Northern England and most of Scotland seeing a drier end to the day. Winds also easing here too, but could just hang on to the rain across Shetland as we end Monday evening. So for most, it will be a fairly dry night, but a fairly warm and humid one, especially across the south. Temperatures potentially holding up above 20 degrees in a few spots. But out towards the west, we will see this next band of rain and cloud move in, and that will herald something a little bit fresher, but it is going to be a bit of a slow process as we go through Tuesday. So a dry sunny start for most of us on Tuesday, but the rain in the west will slowly spread its way eastward, so turning increasingly cloudy and damp for many western and eventually into some central areas too. But further east you are hanging on to the sunshine and also the heat. It won't be as hot across the east compared to today, but still highs reaching around 28 or possibly 29 degrees.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
(11:42). This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce.
Now listen to this figure. More than 18,000 have crossed the channel in small boats so far this year, after the biggest single day of arrivals under the new Labour government.
So this comes after 2 migrants died yesterday attempting the crossing to reach the UK in a small boat. We're joined now by GB News' Home and Security editor, Mark White. Mark, what's really struck me recently is that, obviously, in the run-up to the election, the Conservatives were getting hammered with these stats about the small boats every single day, and yet it seems that since Labour have got in, the numbers haven't changed significantly. If anything, as we don't know specifically at the moment whether they've gone up or not, but they're getting a bit of a free ride. The press aren't mentioning them at all.
Well, I think understandably over the last couple of weeks, given the very significant events that have unfolded across the country, you could be forgiven for not focusing on those coming across the channel. This particular channel, we've always tried to ensure that people are up to date with actually what's happening out there in terms of these illegal crossings. And so that's why we can report today that 18,342 people have crossed the English Channel since the beginning of this year. That's 13% up on the same period last year. And you can see there, this is one of the lifeboats, the Dover lifeboat, coming in yesterday with 70 migrants. That lifeboat had gone across into French waters to help out in a rescue there yesterday, in which 2 migrants drowned. It didn't pick up any migrants from that rescue, but did help out. Then on its way back, it came across a small boat with 70 people on board, and that's them being
a small boat
here.
With 70 people on board. That's a small
incredible.
boat.
They're absolutely
That's a small boat.
out.
Amazing.
Very dangerous indeed.
Yeah.
What you have now as well is a phenomenon with mainly African migrants who don't have the money to pay the people smugglers for the crossing, storming the boats just as they're being launched. So instead of carrying maybe 60 odd as the people smugglers intend, they're up 70, 80, 90, even some over 100, getting into difficulties in the channel.
Well, I think, you see, I think because of what happened in the last couple of weeks, but I actually said to some politicians on Friday, the channel crossings will become a major issue in the next couple of weeks. The sea is calm, the weather's calm, they're going to be pouring across, and there they come.
It's a huge issue. What we're looking at now is a migrant boat that just about made it to St Margaret's Bay, to the beach there, St Margaret's Beach, yesterday. That came out of the early morning sea fog, completely took Border Force by
So they could have just literally got off the beach and just disappeared.
Yeah, because there was a big issue, remember, 2.5 years ago, over a 2-year period, with multiple boats managing to land on beaches, and then migrants just skedaddling out of there. And more serious incidents where, on a number of occasions, these small boat migrants had ended up breaking into houses, knocking on doors, demanding money and transport to their pre-arranged location to meet other people that would smuggle them off into the illegal economy. So that's why we got a sea change in the way that the operations happened in the channel to intercept them further out into the middle of the channel. But clearly this one yesterday came very close to landing on a beach.
Clearly remain a very attractive
We're going to be
option.
nostalgic soon for Rwanda.
Right, we've got to move on. Thanks, Mark. We're going to be calling for any men out there if you've been left furious by not being asked if you're pregnant when you've gone for an X-ray. Yep, that's right. This is Britain's Newsroom.
It's the country we live in now.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Football and gambling can go hand in hand and cause long-term problems. New figures show that young adults aged between 16 and 24 who have bet over the last year are more likely to report mental health issues compared to those in older age groups.
And joining us now to discuss this is Matt Burgess, who is a former gambling addict and now helps those to deal with their own gambling issues.
Yeah, look, I think gambling is one of those things that is so accessible now. You know, everyone's got a kind of mobile phone in their pocket, walks around with a kind of 24-hour casino, if you like. So I think it's really important that people realise that we have to sort of recognise that that is a month of quite condensed gambling, and we don't want people to sort of carry that on into their everyday life, because that's when it can become really risky and you know, it could become addictive.
I had no idea, though, that it was linked to first-time gambling. For the first time, people might be able to pick up and have a go. And then it doesn't end there. It goes on, because by then you've got the bug. Is that how it works?
You've got to remember, for things like the Euros, the World Cup, so you get a lot more people watching football and therefore potentially betting on football.
May I ask you about how severe your own gambling addiction got?
Well, look, I think there was a couple of touch points for me where I realised that things were getting out of hand. There were some times at university where, you know, I kind of thought, you know, I'm definitely doing this a bit too much, but, you know, kind of thought maybe it would move on once I left, but it didn't. It did follow me. And then, you know, I got to points where I was at my worst gambling 16, 17 hours a day. I was spending huge amounts of money. It can spiral out of control very, very quickly, and that was the important thing that we want to highlight is, you know, what can start as fun can become very, very dangerous in a sense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Lots of texts and emails coming in. I'm being ticked off about the beard. Dan says, can someone please tell Andrew to stop saying Prince William looks awful with a beard? He doesn't. He looks handsome. I didn't say he looks awful. I just think the beard is awful.
Jack has said, dear, sweet, wonderful GB News. I think he's talking to you. Oh. Could your weather people please report the temperatures in Fahrenheit? Some of us oldies have to figure out centigrade to Fahrenheit. Right. And let me do it. I've done it for you, Jack. So 32 degrees Celsius is 89.6 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and also, I noticed when in our scripts it sometimes says kilometres, I'm quickly converting to miles because we don't do kilometres in this country.
You don't like that, do you?
Well, I don't. It's miles here.
No, you're right. You're right. We are still miles. I do a bit of both, but partly
I have to work it out in my head. It's 1,500 metres is about a mile, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Right, moving on. NHS X-ray operators have been told to ask men if they are pregnant before conducting any scans. This is radiographers at multiple hospitals have been
Can you believe this?
Whether male patients between 12 and 15 are pregnant regardless of their sex. We're joined now by coordinator for the Declaration for Biological Reality, James Esses. Morning, James.
It's madness.
Just make it make sense, James. Just make this make sense to me.
It's madness.
Good morning. I wish I could, and if I didn't laugh, I'd cry. I mean, imagine for a moment going to the hospital and being asked if you had been neutered, or imagine being asked by your clinician if you're able to use the litter tray all right, or even imagine being asked by your doctor when the last time you hibernated was. This is the exact same as what we're seeing with men being asked if they are pregnant, because these are biological impossibilities for human beings. It is utter madness that this question is being asked, and it's symptomatic of the woke ideologies that have infected our National Health Service.
Trying to be compassionate here and put it aside.
Why?
Because if you are okay, let me get this right. A woman who's transitioned to living life as a man, and you sit there in the doctor's surgery and you've got short hair and you have a flat chest and you're wearing jeans and, I don't know, steel-toe boots, I'm stereotyping here, and the doctor has to say to that person, are you pregnant? Isn't it up to the patients to volunteer the information and say, I live as a man, however, I have retained my uterus and I am currently pregnant?
Well, I want to do away with the entire confusion that this is causing, because we've introduced this notion that people can be born in the wrong body and change their sex, and it's simply not true. You know, this is the problem with the language that has infiltrated the NHS. Terms like birthing parent,
chest feeding,
like chest feeding, or even
pregnant
things like
people.
pregnant people, menopause affects everybody. No, it doesn't. I'm a man, and menopause will never affect me directly in that way. So it's utter nonsense, and it's got real world ramifications here. We can laugh about this, but I've heard of stories, for example, of men showing up to cervical screenings because they've convinced themselves, because they're transgender, that they have a cervix, wasting NHS time. And I've equally heard of women not being notified of important cervical screening because the NHS has their sex down as male because they have quote-unquote transitioned. So this is costing resources, and it's potentially risking the health and well-being of patients of the NHS too.
A wonderful voice of common sense there from the Declaration for Biological Reality, James Esses.
We've got to get him back on.
We are done for the day. You better go and have your well-woman health check this afternoon.
Just so ridiculous, isn't it?
See you tomorrow.
Maybe they could ask me, honestly.
703. That's the number of illegal migrants who came across in small boats just yesterday alone. Whilst the whole country has been fixated on riots, have we missed the crisis in the English Channel?
Yes, indeed. And how worried are you about the state of free speech in this country? Keir Starmer has been accused of wanting to crack down on that fundamental right of freedom of expression. We'll get to the bottom of it all after your weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, this week starts off on a hot and humid note, and that humidity is also giving way to some thunderstorms. The thunderstorms are already going across parts of northern England and Scotland. Warnings are in force here throughout the morning and early afternoon. After a fairly lively night across parts of Northern Ireland, it is cheering up here, some sunshine developing, but really the main bulk of the sunshine will be further south across England and Wales. The heat here could just trigger the odd thunderstorm, but most will be dry. But it's going to be an uncomfortable feeling day. Some places in the east potentially reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, it's going to remain fine and dry across many parts of England and Wales. Could again just see the odd thunderstorm breaking out, but most will miss them, and temperatures only slowly falling away. Could still see temperatures in their 30s as we head into the evening. Northern Ireland, Northern England and most of Scotland seeing a drier end to the day. Winds also easing here too, but could just hang on to the rain across Shetland as we end Monday evening. So for most, it will be a fairly dry night, but a fairly warm and humid one, especially across the south. Temperatures potentially holding up above 20 degrees in a few spots. But out towards the west, we will see this next band of rain and cloud move in, and that will herald something a little bit fresher, but it is going to be a bit of a slow process as we go through Tuesday. So a dry sunny start for most of us on Tuesday, but the rain in the west will slowly spread its way eastward, so turning increasingly cloudy and damp for many western and eventually into some central areas too. But further east you are hanging on to the sunshine and also the heat. It won't be as hot across the east compared to today, but still highs reaching around 28 or possibly 29 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You really could become the next giveaway winner with your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Listen to what some of our previous winners have to say about winning big with us.
Hi, my name's Victoria. I won the Spring Great British giveaway. So the day we got the money in our bank account, everything just felt just a lot nicer. We went out for dinner, just enter. And you never expect to win, but I did.
Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com.